Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show here on STV. Over the next 4 hours, we will bring you the best of the action across all 4 divisions in Scotland, and we'll keep you up to date with the FA Cup matches and some of the other English football scores as well. All in the company of Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Hugh MacDonald. Over the next 4 hours, we will also look ahead to a game taking place in the East End of Glasgow tomorrow that seems to have everyone's attention. We'll hear from more than a few pundits who all have their opinion on who they think is going to win that match, Celtic against Rangers. So that's what's on offer this afternoon. As far as a game that's kicked off already in the FA Cup, Ruffy, it looks as if Middlesbrough, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola will be thinking about the next round. They're in control, 2-0 up at the moment.
Yeah, I haven't seen the team obviously, but we've been criticising them for not playing their best players. Obviously with the scoreline today, you would expect that most of them will be playing, and I think when it gets to this time, you want to be playing your first team. You want to be playing in cup finals. You know, the supporters want to be at cup finals. I think the managers have actually got a duty to pick their best possible side to get to the final.
They have today. They've gone with their strongest lineup.
Yeah. And the key issue that we'll be talking about today as well is a certain man who's arrived in Glasgow, Hugh MacDonald, the new Rangers manager.
Yeah, got off his flight this morning apparently. Just going away with Rangers officials to get a briefing, no doubt, on what to say and what not to say in the atmosphere in Scotland. The still news is that he won't go to the dugout, that he'll sit in the stands tomorrow and watch his new team from there.
Here's an interesting question, Gordon. Do you think at any point he may be influenced to intervene? Do you think he would go into the dressing room prior to it and say, "Hi, I'm here, good luck to you all," or half-time if it wasn't going according to plan?
I don't think he'll do the half-time one, Peter, but he might go in before the game and just say hello to the players, introduce himself, and then they'll be aware that he's in the stand watching them. And that is a motivational factor in a lot of cases. When a new manager's come in, the players maybe think, well, I've got to impress here. So that might be something that he's advised to do, or he might just think it's the right thing to do. But I think he'll stay back from actually taking anything to do with the team, so that regardless of the result, if they win, it won't affect him anyway because he's taken over. If they were to lose and he was having some sort of influence on it, he would be criticised for that. So I think it would be best to stay back, watch the game and have his own ideas on it afterwards.
Yeah. Do you think it's a risk, Gordon, this appointment?
Oh, definitely. I think in terms of looking at it, I'm thinking what the guy did quite well in Mexico, right? Now, this is a totally different environment here, different type of players, different game that's played. I wonder what he knows about the Scottish game and all that sort of thing. So, no doubt about it. But the only thing I can think of is they must have done their due diligence on him and must know something about him that the rest of us don't really. And that's maybe why they've decided it's the right thing to do, is to choose him, because he's got a lot of talent and he's good at what he does. At the moment, he's not doing that well. I mean, his team, his manager of just now is 19 points off the top, sitting in 5th place in the league. So he's not having a great time in Qatar. I don't know whether he'd been staying on there, but it is a surprise. It's two things of surprise. One is Rangers going from, another one is the fact he's leaving Qatar, because there's no way that he maybe just doing it to build his reputation in the game, because you maybe don't go from Qatar and move on to bigger things from there. That's the thing. He's maybe just done that. That's a financial aspect, obviously, for being in Qatar, the money that you get paid over there, considering the size of the game in there, because the average crowd for the team he's manager of is 400 people.
Yeah, well, I think he'll be surprised as more than 400 people will be following his every move over the next year or two. That is for certain. Pedro Caixinha all set to take his place in the stand, at least for tomorrow's game. You can give us your thoughts at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, if you want to offer your thoughts on who you think is going to win the Old Firm game. Give us your thoughts on that. After the break, we're going to talk Dundee United, Hibernian, and we will look in even greater detail at the Old Firm match on the horizon. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Right throughout the afternoon, if you cannot get to a game, then stick with us here over the next 4 hours, all the way through until 6 o'clock. Gordon Smith, Hugh McDonald and Ruffy himself will offer their opinion and give us their reaction to the goals as they hit the back of the net. That's what's on the agenda. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers, Moussa Dembele, Graham Murty, Jason Holt, to name but a few. We'll also hear some of the managers who are looking ahead to the games today. We've got reporters out at grounds for you as well. So lots to look forward to. The FA Cup match has finished, Ruffy. Manchester City are through by 2-0.
Yeah, well, obviously they've got quality players, you know, and they probably dominated the game, you know, and just saw the game out, and obviously use as many substitutes as possible. But no, they seem to be getting their act together now.
Yeah, what is your take, Ruffy, on last night? Because in the Championship, Dundee United 0, Hibs 1. It was a humdinger of a game. 11 yellow cards, 2 red cards. Cummings scores 1, cheats to get one in the back of the net, and gets sent off.
Yeah, I think you've just summed that up.
You see, Ruffy's got a sore throat. He's not what to talk today.
I can see why the boy was sent off, obviously because of the lunge, but I've seen worse. You know, to get straight to a right, it was a double yellow, but to get another yellow, and certainly, I mean, you think back to last week at Rangers, you know, with Gardner, you know, and he got nothing, you know, so it's just the inconsistency, but you hit it on the head. The boy Cummins is just cheating, you know, to hit the ball, to touch the ball with your hand, fall down, then get up and run away, you know, and celebrate, you know. Does he think everybody doesn't see it? You know, did he not think there was any cameras at the game?
I actually think the referee had a smashing game last night.
Yeah.
I think he's a referee that the powers that be at Hampden really rate. He's, you know, I think they rate him as Don Robertson's his name. I think they rate him as one of the ones to come through. And I thought last night he was smashing. I think, you know, they could maybe quibble that the second yellow was a wee bit, but it was reckless. He was going in fast. There was minimal contact, if any contact at all. But I've got no sympathy for the player in that situation. He's already been booked. He shouldn't be going to ground, and he shouldn't be going in that quick. He's actually inviting the referee to make a decision. And the Cummins thing's daft. I wonder with the Cummins thing, what I've looked at it, could he actually have got it with his head? I don't know. It was one of those weird ones where you go, did he? But I mean, that's the both sides of Jason Cummins. He was the goal was brilliant. The goal is top quality. The take, the strike. And then the daftness of that, you know. Just
I think he would get away with it, Hugh, because they actually won the game.
Can you imagine Lenny if they hadn't
won the game? I think he'd have been in big trouble.
Gordon, I do think, though, it was a significant result because 9 points of an advantage. Now, I think that's what Neil Lennon was looking for.
Definitely, I think that's right. I mean, it's is it 8 points over Falkirk, though, I think, isn't it? It's 9 over Dundee United, though. But I think that definitely, I think Hibs are, I mean, they've had a little bad run of late. I mean, they've lost a few games, which were a bit of a surprise, especially like losing to St Mirren when they did. But I think that overall, that was a big game last night. That was a game that he had to get his players up for, and they got the result. So I think that I think he'll be delighted with that result.
Yeah. What about big Efferley last night?
Well, you've got to hand it to him. I mean, he's taken a bit of stick, the boy, man of the match, and I think the general consensus was, Hugh, that he strolled through it.
Absolutely strolled through it. And it's one of these things where you watch the other defender that Hibs have got as well, McGregor. You look at him and you say, and I know this is not going to win any prizes for originality, but every time I see him, the first question goes to his hand is, why did the Rangers get rid of him?
Yeah.
I mean, is Kiernan, Senderos or Hill better than McGregor?
I don't think so. I agree with you. I don't know why they suddenly thought that he was a player to go, because he's very consistent, I think.
That's right, and strong.
Yeah.
Physical. I mean, I thought Hibs in the centre of defence were really strong last night. And see, Effie, for all the, I don't know if you watched the post-match interviews, but for all the criticism and all that he gets, and for all people maybe judging his quality, and he is a winner of the Africa Cup of Nations, so he must be pretty decent. Yeah. He must be the nicest man in football.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, his interview last night was just thanking everybody and all that. You know, it's great to hear that, especially when you spend most of your Saturday with somebody like Alan Rough. You know, it restores your faith in the goodness of players.
Well, absolutely. The last thing we need on this programme, Hugh, is humility. To be perfectly honest with you, and we've got the right 3 characters this afternoon for that. So Hibs get the win, and as Gordon pointed out there, I think now we start to look and wonder whether Falkirk are going to be the ideal chasing team that could possibly catch Hibs. Tom Tewu reckons that they could catch them. I'm not quite so sure about that. I think Hibs have got the bit between their teeth now, and Neil Lennon got the response he was looking for. What fine he will get for being sent to the stand is another matter. Hibs fans, give us your thoughts on it at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. As well as looking ahead to the big one, Celtic and Rangers, we will also preview the games taking place today. We've got a reporter out there at Firhill for Partick Thistle against Inverness Cally Thistle. It's Kevin Harper.
Hi Peter, really looking forward to this game today. Really intriguing. Thistle are on a great run. They've won 4 of 4 in the league. Only get beat in the cup last week with Aberdeen, and they haven't conceded a goal in the league in the 4 games, Peter. So really really on good form. Whereas Inverness, their last 4 games, they've only beat Rangers. 2 of their defeats have came against Celtic, but more importantly, in the last 20 games, Peter, they've only won twice. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think Inverness really have to win this game to have a chance of staying up.
And with that in mind, Kevin, Richie Foran's already come out and mentioned that he doesn't care how they win it today, win ugly.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, Peter, is getting the 3 points. But I just can't see it. You know, I seen Thistle against Hearts and they were absolutely tremendous. It could have been 4 or 5. You know, and I just can't see where Inverness are going to get the goals, and break down this resolute Thistle team.
Yep, and with that in mind, let's talk about Partick Thistle. You've mentioned their good form, Kevin. They clearly have their sights set on finishing in the top 6, and they're in that pole position as we speak.
Yeah, they're in pole position, as you say, Peter. But I think looking at it, if I was Alan Archibald in the team, I think I'd be looking for a wee bit more, Peter. I think I'd be looking at 3rd or 4th. You know, they're close enough to try and get, 4th and 5th. They're close enough to get there with St Johnstone, only 5 points ahead of them. You know, so they're in, as I say, they're in a real good form, and there's no reason why they can't get further up the league.
Okay, thanks to Kevin. We'll go back to Firhill, get the team news from Kevin Harper. We'll be delving into the Championship as well, because we're keeping an eye on the bottom end of the table today. Des McKeown is out there at New St Mirren Park for St Mirren Dunfermline. We'll be going there very shortly. We're just listening to Kevin there talking about Inverness Cally Thistle. Of course, we've heard this catchphrase before, Ruffy. This is Richie Foran just summing up. He doesn't care how Inverness get the win as long as they get it.
The performances win ugly. Simple as that. We need to pick up points now, and it's a tough place to go there. It really is. They're a really good side, and you've got some big games coming up at home as well. So there's a lot of points up for grabs, and we'll probably be favourites in a few of these games as well. And we're excited about it. We're looking forward to it. We're going to embrace the challenge we have ahead of us.
I'm wondering, Ruffy, are they your tip now? I mean, I think you've gone for the Lanarkshire clubs to go down, but have Inverness got enough for you to get away from it?
Well, I think we'll have to wait for the split for them, like everybody else. But no, I'm going to stick with Hamilton and stick with Motherwell for the playoff. Obviously, Motherwell got another tough one today up there. I don't think Louis Moult's playing, so that'll be another blow for them. But and it's amazing with Partick Thistle. I mean, 4 weeks ago we were talking about, you know, them in the relegation zone. Now we're talking about trying to catch Hearts for Europe for 4th place. You know, it's amazing, you know, how things can change. Yeah. And
well, they've got a bit consistent. I mean, they have won their last 3 league games, Thistle. So I mean, they are in a bit of form just now. Inverness, to be fair to them, they have only won 1 game since last October, and that was when they beat Rangers recently. Apart from that, no wins, and that they need to put together a run like this if they're going to get themselves up.
I think they're gone, Gordon. Do you?
I think they're struggling a bit. I really do, but you never know if they could put together a run. I mean, they are pushing teams hard in matches. I'll say that for them. They're not losing comfortably. Do you know what I mean? So they just need to turn that around. And they're not. If you look at it as well, points wise, they're still right in it. I mean, they're only 2 behind Hamilton, 3 behind Motherwell. So and 5 behind Motherwell. In that respect, though, they've got every chance that if they could put together 2 or 3 wins, it will turn things around. But as I say, they're fortunate today in one respect that the 2 teams above them have both got hard games. Motherwell away to Aberdeen and Hamilton having to go to Tynecastle. So they would be hoping, looking at that they can go to Firhill today and get something from that game, believing that their other two teams above them are not going to get anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were all thinking that the top three were Europe. Now it looks as if it's top four. And obviously, with the three teams that are in the four teams that are in the semi-final, apart from Hibs, if three of them win, that means fourth place. It's something to go for.
Yeah,
with that available.
We will preview the other Premiership games, but we're going to delve into the Championship, because I think we've got to keep our eye on St Mirren. Is the Great Escape on? We're going to find out, because Des McKeown's watching St Mirren against Dunfermline today. Jack Ross, at times in the last couple of weeks, it's been a roller coaster ride for the St Mirren boss, Des.
Yes, it has indeed, Peter. Dug out a couple of really good results in the league, defeating Ayr United down at Somerset Park. I was at that myself, and then defeating Hibs here the following Wednesday night. But since then, lost out in the Scottish Cup last Sunday to Celtic, and a defeat at Wraith Rovers on Wednesday, which many think was just a blip on the Great Escape trail. Today we'll find out a bit more. 10 games to go. Jack Ross is still confident that his side can get out of that bottom spot. They're 5 points behind Dumbarton, 5 points behind Ayr United, 7 points behind Dumbarton. And at this point, St Mirren are just concentrating, trying to win each game. Today, it's going to be an interesting one. Dunfermline have taken 4 points from their last two games. A healthy victory last week against Dumbarton 5-1, and a midweek draw against Queen of the South. It's going to be a tough test for the Paisley Saints in their endeavours to try and stay within the Championship. Team news from St Mirren Park is that Jack Ross makes 2 changes to the starting 11 from the previous 4 games. Stelios drops out, as does Kyle McGuinness. They're replaced with Gary Irvine and young Josh Todd, who's making his first start for the Paisley side. That means it's Billy O'Brien in goals, a back 4 of Gary Irvine, Gary McKenzie, Harry Davis and Adam Eckersley. Midfield 4 of Josh Todd, Stevie Mallon, Stephen McGinn and Lewis Morgan, and Cammy Smith just playing off of John Sutton up front. On the bench it's Langfield, Stelios, Baird, Lloyd, Storey, Fielda and McGuinness. It's the exact same starting 11 for Alan Johnston's Dunfermline side that drew on Tuesday night against Queen of the South. That means that they start with Sean Murdoch in goals, a back 4 of Andy Geoghegan, Callum Morris, Lee Ashcroft and Jason Talbot. Midfield 4, Paul McMullen, John Heron, Nathaniel Weatherburn and Callum Higginbotham, and Nicky Clark, who grabbed 4 goals last Saturday alongside Michael Moffat up front. They have Gill, Fordyce, Cardle, Payton, McCabe, Riley and Spence on the bench. Our referee is Stephen Finney.
Got to ask you, Des, just before we switch to the Premiership once more, you'll get blips along the way, but do you still think they've got enough, St Mirren, to get out of it?
I do, I really do, Peter. I think today is going to be significant. I said 10 games to go. I think every St Mirren fan thinks every game is a must-win. Obviously the loss to Wraith Rovers on Wednesday was a sore one, but if they win today, Ayr United entertaining Falkirk, that's not going to be an easy game for Ian McCall's side. They could conceivably get to within 2 points, and then on Wednesday night, out here behind me, we've got St Mirren versus Dundee United, so it is very much still to play for St Mirren, and I think St Mirren will not finish bottom of the pile.
Yeah, that's the kind of punditry we want, Ruffy, from Des. Des, I've got to ask you, because obviously Gordon Smith, Ruffy and Hugh MacDonald have, they've been running about 10 miles this morning. You're very close to the London Marathon. It's looming on the horizon. How many miles did you do this morning?
It was just a 16 this morning, Peter, but 10 at marathon pace, so 10 miles at 7:20 pace. It went along quite quickly, so we're happy with that.
Yep, it's always demoralising when you hear somebody thin and fit like that. It's the last thing you want to hear, isn't it?
I did 30 odd miles today, just coming here for Bearsden in my wee Ford Fiasco. Probably took longer than Des did to do his 16.
Can I just say to you, the most demoralising part, Gordon, of the London Marathon, apart from waving to Des at the start and knowing that you're going to see him later, 2 hours after he finishes, is the fact that I think it's about the 16-mile point in the London Marathon when you're running out of London and the guys who are going to win it are sprinting back the other way. There's a point where the two roads meet, and you can see the guys who are going to win it and get medals, and they are sprinting. It's the most frightening thing ever.
What was your time on that? What did you do?
A long time.
I
think I must have done about 4 hours 47 or something like that.
That's good going for 26 miles and change.
Yeah, and
what does Des find? Was Des a 3 hour man?
Des is probably just ahead of Haile Gebrselassie. Jack, Des is a 2 hours 30. He's unbelievably fit, and who wants to hang about with fit people like that, Ruffy? We need somebody. We need somebody who's gallus, who's got a bit of personality about them, and has got a bit of devilment as well.
I just get tired watching it. Because it looks hard, especially the last 5 miles. You begin to feel, how the runners are feeling.
Do you get lifted though? I imagine, I've never done a marathon. I've done a half marathon, but I would imagine that just the fact there's a crowd there watching you gives you a bit of adrenaline, Peter. It keeps you going, does it?
Yes. You're hoping some of the crowd will lift you.
Yes,
absolutely. That's exactly it.
But imagine that is the thing that keeps you going.
The best one to do is New York for that. New York, the Americans absolutely love it. It's all yippee, and they shout your name out. That's a huge lift. London's fantastic. Berlin is not. No, because nobody really shouts your name, and it was very hot. So there you are. There's 3 down, 2 to go. Des is going to try and coax me into another 2, but we wish him well in the London Marathon. He's been putting in the miles, and he's going to put in the miles this afternoon and keep us up to date with St Mirren against Dunfermline. Really looking forward to that one in the Championship. There are some other tasty games in the Championship as well. And in the Premiership, we will keep you up to date with Aberdeen and Hearts, because clearly Aberdeen still want to make sure that they maintain second place, Ruffy.
Yep, and I'm just looking at the team line today. It looks as if we got a bit of consistency there. And again, we keep talking about what teams have got on the bench, and they certainly have got a bit of strength there in the bench as well. But it's all about, the last result. And they haven't been winning comfortably, Aberdeen. They've been winning games, but not like really beating people. So I would think today, unfortunately, the way Motherwell are playing, that this could be the day that they start scoring goals again.
Yeah, Motherwell, of course, have got to look for a new manager. The feeling is that I think the players are hoping Stephen Robinson can get the position on a full-time basis. Yeah,
he was brought back in there, and I think that he looks as if he is the favourite for the job, although they are interviewing other people. So there'll be a few people who are out of job. Owen Coyle was mentioned for it, so there's been a few people who have been put forward for it. Billy Davis was another name that was brought up, but I think that Robinson will get it, and he got a good result. I mean, that was the thing last week. He turned the things around, and if he continues that, I think another good result today. You're in the strongest position when you are the caretaker, because you're the one, you can actually have an influence on the people who are making the decision by getting results and having the team playing well. So if he puts in another good performance today, and especially when you look, what you're being judged on is the last time Motherwell went to Aberdeen, they got absolutely hammered. So this is why the board are looking at it, thinking if he can have his team competing a lot better than they were the last time they were there, he must be in a good shout at getting the job.
I think if there's any semblance at all, Peter, of him being able to finish third at bottom of the league, if there's any semblance or thought that he's capable of doing that, Motherwell keep him. I think that they're willing to be persuaded to keep him. He's there. They know his quality because they brought him back. The season is now running down into, you're not that many games to go. You don't want to bring in, not just financially, you don't want to bring in a new manager, but also the turbulence of it. And I think that the Motherwell board and the fans are willing to be persuaded, shall we say, that Robinson is a man. So I think he's a very strong favourite for it.
Yeah, this is the Aberdeen manager, Derek McInnes's take on the decision by Motherwell to look for a new manager.
Players will be doing all they can to get a result, regardless of who's in charge. I think it's clear it looks as if Steve's popular with the players, and I think they'll be trying to get a result. And I think if they get a result, it might give him a better opportunity of taking the job on if he wanted it. I don't know if he does, but and I'm disappointed for Mark to lose his job, and I said that a couple of weeks ago. And Motherwell made a change, and whether that proves to be the right call or whatever, who knows? But I think that I thought at the time it was unfair Obviously, they have an interim manager in Steve who knows the club. So I think that the game's about the players anyway, and I'm sure that the players will come up here eager to make amends for the last time out. We've got to expect a tough match and expect to fight for everything we get.
Yeah, that's Derek McInnes's take on it. So Aberdeen against Motherwell today. Now there's an interesting game at Tynecastle because with 4 wins in 15, everybody's looking and wondering when it's actually going to turn for Ian Cathro. Apart from the game itself, it's always interesting to hear the thoughts of the Hearts manager. Sometimes it can leave you more than a little bemused. And already he's getting calls saying, is this a must-win game for you today?
Because I've lived through loads and it's a must win, and no matter what, life will go on. But if we're talking about how important this game is to us, then it's of maximum importance. Whatever word we choose to use, as long as there's not a word above it, then that's the right word. Because this is everything to us. Saturday's everything.
I don't know if I'm enjoying the press conferences or I'm actually just wincing, Gordon Smith. Sometimes they're painful to listen to.
And I've been saying it, it's not just anything new. I've been saying for some time that I find it quite strange in terms of what he's saying at some of the press conferences. I don't quite understand what's the word above it. The word above, like, must win or whatever, I don't know. But, I think it's probably finding that side of it hard. You just to have to answer these questions and try and be, I think he's probably he's trying to be humorous here a little bit and be friendly and all that sort of thing, but it seems to be it's taking its toll on him. But he needs to start getting results, because the longer it goes on, it's a results business, as we all know. They've lost their last 3 games. Obviously, one of them was in the cup, but losing to Hibs. But then, obviously, since then, losing to Partick and then at home to Ross County. And this is a game, having lost to Ross County at home, I think it would really bring the pressure on them greatly if they don't win this game today.
Yeah, it can be quirky. I mean, see, if you're winning games, the manager can say anything he wants in press conferences. All that would be looked as endearing and a bit quirky, and everybody would be saying, isn't he? Oh, he's a breath of fresh air with this maximum in the hands up in the air. It's when you're not losing games. Everything turns.
Yeah.
I mean, the phrase, the cliche and the phrase about results is a cliche because it's so true.
Yeah.
Results change everything. Even if you look at the very top of the league and Brendan Rodgers, results change everything of the perception to him. He can get beat 7-0 by Barcelona. He can lose, comprehensively at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach. But everybody will look at what he's doing domestically and quite rightly say, well, we'll package that. Because they're unbeaten domestically and they're on track at least for a treble. So results, everything that you see in a press conference is judged in this huge context of results. You can get away with almost anything if you're winning.
Yep, and we'll keep our eye on Hearts against Hamilton Accies. There's another match that we'll also be looking over as St Johnstone against Dundee. If Dundee could get a win here, that really would drag 3 or 4 clubs close together in the battle to finish in that top 6. This is what Tommy Wright had to say about the last couple of results for his side and facing Dundee today.
That basically we get back to winning ways, particularly at home. I think it's also important, and you rightly said, that we get enough points to guarantee us top 6, and 3 points tomorrow would go a long way to doing that. And then hopefully we can push on and put the extra pressure on Hearts and try and get that 4th spot. But first and foremost, I think after our last performance at home, we got to be much better. And if we are, that'll give us an opportunity to try and win the game.
OK, that's what's at stake for St Johnstone. But what about Dundee? As Ruffy mentioned there are so many clubs that 1 or 2 wins can transform their ambitions. Paul Hartley's hoping his Dundee side can get all 3 points. Similar result to the last time they faced St Johnstone.
Counters between the 2 teams. We had a good result before Christmas here. But we know we expect a tough game when you go to McDermott, a team that are well drilled and organised. And they've had another good season, a top 6 team. Tommy's done an excellent job there along with Callum. We're going away from home. We had a good last away performance against Motherwell. Hopefully we'll take a large travelling support that will back us, and it's a really important game for us.
Ross County against Kilmarnock is the last of the Premiership games, Gordon Smith. I've never actually witnessed a situation where we've actually been waiting quite a considerable amount of time for a Rangers manager to kick in, and it seems we're going to wait even longer for a Kilmarnock person to take it.
Yes, it is, and sympathy has to go to Michael Johnson as well, who lost his wife last week as well. His wife died in an airplane. That was a shame to happen. So that's obviously caused a bit of turmoil at the club. But Kilmarnock are in a situation where, you know, I thought that Lee McCulloch would just walk straight into the job. I didn't think there'd be any question about them having to interview people, look to see who else would get the job. I just thought he was tailor-made for it. He's been there for a while now as assistant and ready to take it. But it doesn't look like, you know, they're ready to put him right into the job.
Yeah, the delay. I mean, I think, do you want the job? Yes, I do, because I don't know where he goes if he knocks it back, Hugh.
Yeah, but I mean, there's you know, in Kilmarnock, nothing ever seems to be straightforward there at the moment. There's a lot of, you know, turmoil in the background. I would have expected, I think Lee's got, I agree with you, I think it's a job that if he's offered it, he's got to take, because, you know, it comes a phase in your career where you've got to put up or shut up or decide, you know, this is not for me. I think it's a good job at the moment with all the, you know, with all the caveats about what's going on behind the scene, etc., etc. It's a big club. It's a club, you know, that I honestly don't think they'll go down. I don't think they'll be in the playoff spot. So I think it's a good job going forward.
Okay, we will keep our eye on Ross County against Kilmarnock as well. So that's the Premiership games on offer. We're into the Championship. We will also delve into that big game tomorrow in greater detail. I'll get the guys' thoughts on the probable lineups. We'll hear from the interim manager at Rangers. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic manager, as well. Lots more discussion and the big kick-off coming up. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday football show. There's no Celtic or Rangers involved in action this afternoon because it's all about 12 noon on Sunday for the big Old Firm derby. We are going to look at that match in greater detail. But before that, we'll go to the Championship ahead of that kick-off. St Mirren against Dunfermline. Des McKeown is out there for us. Des, how do you see this one going today?
I do think it's going to be very tight, Peter. I have to say, I don't think St Mirren do things in any easy stages. You know, they don't do things the easy way. I think Dunfermline, as well documented, you know, they've had a terrific victory last Saturday against Dumbarton and then back to another draw on Tuesday night. You know, a whole host of draws in recent months for Alan Johnson's side. I think today is going to be very tight. All games this season have been tight between the sides. I think St Mirren will come out victorious with the odd goal in 3.
Okay, so Des thinks they're going to edge it. Hugh, how do you see it?
Well, the thing about St Mirren is that we've been all year, and certainly the last 3 months, we've been looking at them playing really well in certain matches and in cup matches, and we've been saying, "Oh, that's them," you know, that's them back. Yeah. They're going, and then they throw in results in the league which are poor. I mean, the result. That was a huge game on Wednesday night. They could drag Wraith Rovers right back into it. Yeah. They could have pulled themselves in within one result of Ayr United, and they lose quite comfortably. So it's the old question: what St Mirren is going to turn up today? If this is the St Mirren of league form, and you look at Dunfermline's league form particularly, that's 2 excellent results on the bounce. You know, they've been playing really well, Dunfermline recently. But if you look at last week's 5-1, and then in the midweek against a good Queen of the South team that Gary Naismith really turned round to get a good point there, you're going to say, well, it's done. I remain to be convinced about St Mirren, I really do. I remain to be convinced in the league, because every time they've had a chance of bringing teams back into the mix, they've failed. So I think this is a huge test, not only of their professional ability today, but their mettle today. This is a huge game for them.
Yep, okay. Here's how it all looks for you this Saturday afternoon. This is where we'll be going to throughout the afternoon to keep you right up to date with all the goals. Aberdeen against Motherwell, Hearts, Hamilton, Partick Thistle, Inverness, Cally Thistle, Ross County, Kilmarnock and St Johnstone against Dundee. And of course tomorrow Celtic against Rangers is a 12 o'clock kick-off in the Championship. Confirmation of that result from last night: Dundee United 0, Hibernian 1. It's Ayr United against Falkirk, Dumbarton Wraith Rovers, St Mirren against Dunfermline and Morton against Queen of the South. League 1 is Albion Rovers against Airdrieonians, Alloa against Stenhousemuir, Livingston East Fife, Peterhead against Brecon City and Stranraer against Queen's Park. And in League 2 it's Annan Athletic against Elgin City, Arbroath versus Clyde, Berwick Rangers Cowdenbeath, Forfar for Elgin City and Montrose against Stirling Albion. There are FA Cup matches that we will keep you up to date with later on today. It's Arsenal Lincoln City. One match is finished: Middlesbrough 0, Manchester City 2. That was the early kick-off. And there are 3 Premier League matches: Bournemouth against West Ham, Everton against West Brom and Hull against Swansea. And so that's an indication of the games that we will be keeping you right up to date with throughout the Saturday afternoon. And there's lots of football to talk about as well, and we might reflect on some of the matches that have taken place over the course of the week too. Gordon Smith, I've just got to, before we get into this quick break ahead of the kick-off, get your thoughts on the most remarkable game I've ever witnessed as far as comebacks are concerned. Barcelona against Paris Saint-Germain. Ruffy's tip to win the Champions League.
Yeah, it was quite stunning, because I actually thought Barcelona were doing well until they lost the goal. Mm-hmm. And fun enough, when that goal went in and you suddenly realise they've got to get 6 goals now, I thought it was over. I didn't see them giving it away at that point, and I thought pretty bad defending to a degree, because a good team would have done better from that position they were in. Like losing 3-1, you're thinking they're going to hold out here. But fairness to Barcelona, they always have a go. great to watch. It was an incredible comeback, one you could never have expected. And I think Barcelona were my tip to win it. And I thought after the first leg they were out, but they're still there.
Yeah, incredible. Rafi, did you'd pick two teams, if my memory serves me correct, to win the Champions League this year? You'd said Paris Saint-Germain. Did you not pick Chelsea as well?
Yeah, I honestly can't remember. I'm still trying to go over the Paris result. But I'm now in reflection now. I think in future years we'll find that the officials were at it, because I've had another look at that match, and I don't think they were talking to each other at all. Some of the decisions they were making were unbelievable.
Yeah. Just to clarify, for the benefit of Scottish people, and the translation to European people, at it in Scotland means maybe they didn't quite get some of the decisions right. I'm not for a minute suggesting, nor is Ruffy, that there was any jiggery-pokery and they might have been nobbled.
No, of course.
Or nobbled to the extent that Jim McLean's team were nobbled by Roma in the semi-finals of the European Cup in the 80s.
It was an unfathomable result for PSG. That's a result which will lie heavily, not just in the supporters, but every player. That's a real body blow result here.
You just wonder how they're going to come back from it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, if you pick a team in the Champions League, you have to stick with them. And Gordon and myself decided resolutely to stick with Barcelona and tried to get Ruffy to change his mind, but it just wasn't happening. It's as simple as that. We'll be off to Firhill, where Ruffy undoubtedly in the next 5 minutes will tip Partick Thistle to win for the 47th week in a row. Join us after the break. We'll also start the countdown to Celtic against Rangers. To Peter and Ruffy's Saturday football show. Well, there's always those moments where you just get caught out, to be perfectly honest with you, Hugh McDonald, but we're getting ever closer to kickoff. Yeah, I had that feeling of a Dougie Donnelly moment there. Brian, can we go to the Coatbridge Balls? No, we can't.
Tommy, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Anyway, we're here, we're live. We've got Hugh McDonald, Gordon Smith and Alan Ruff. Let's go to Firhill. Amazingly, Kevin Harper is out there. Might get a little bit of breakdown on him, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Kevin, what's the latest team news from Partick Thistle against Inverness?
Here at Firhill, Peter, Partick make 2 changes. In come Tobiah and Lawless for Devine and Elliott. Their team is Thomas Cherney in goals, Dumbaye, Booth, Lindsay, Osman, Doolan, Erskine, Lawless, Barton, Keown and Edwards. And for Inverness Cali, they make 3 changes. In come Viggers, McCart and Ansia for Cole, King and Draper. Their team is Fon Williams in goals, Raven, Warren, Polworth, Viggers, Jamie McCart, Billy Mackay, Greg Tansey, Lewis Lang, Brad Mackay and Henry Anya.
The joy, Kevin, of live television. Kevin, give us your insight into who you think is going to win that match today.
Just can't see past Partick Thistle, Peter. They're on a great run. You know, they've not conceded a goal in 4. I think they'll win 3-0 today. You know, Inverness haven't kept a clean sheet in 7.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, hey, Ruffy, you'll be happy with that. This is a confident Kevin Harper there, 3-0.
Yeah, well, obviously, apart from the game last week against Aberdeen where they had no shots on goal, I think they will have shots on goal this week, particularly with Doolan starting the game. And obviously, big boy Lindsay's on 7 goals, you know, third top goal scorer, which is always good. So, yeah, I think at home they'll go in with confidence. I don't know about 3, but certainly 1 would do.
Yeah, Gordon Smith.
Yeah, won the last 3 league games, and I think Inverness still haven't quite got it going yet. So I think if there's any game that they won't get anything from, I think this will be it. I think Partick will win as well.
Hugh?
Yeah, Partick for me, I think the statistic, you know, if you look at Inverness over the season, they just don't win games. That's the statistic.
Yeah.
Thistle, I think, crucial to so many teams in this division is how their front men are performing. You know, I've watched Thistle quite a few times this season. I've always thought, every game I've watched them, they played well. It's a matter of converting that into goals, and it's no surprise that they're winning now that Chris Julian is scoring regularly.
Yep. Derek McInnes says Aberdeen have a good record against Motherwell. Are they going to win today at Pittodrie?
Yes, I think so. Aberdeen are a side where I'm never hugely confident. Even when they went that run, you were always expecting a stutter, and the stutter duly came. But I think they'll beat Motherwell today. But I expect a much tighter match. I think Steve Robinson will have Motherwell really sitting back, sitting in, maybe just one man up front, and I think a narrow victory for Aberdeen today.
Yeah, and if anything, Gordon Smith, Stephen Robinson just has to keep his cool, not shout at the match officials in case he's getting filmed by the guy in the second row behind him in the dugout.
Absolutely. If you think that Mark McGee got a hard time from Aberdeen fans when he's been an absolute legend for the club, what he did for them, then Robinson has got no chance of getting well received up there. But I think that Aberdeen will bounce back. As Hugh said, you know, they were on a good run, and then that was a surprise defeat they had at Hamilton. But I think that they will bounce back today and pick up 3 points.
Yep. Are you going for Aberdeen, Ruffy?
Yes, I am. I'm going to go for Aberdeen 3-0.
And can I just say to you, Ruffy, Hearts against Hamilton, it's not the case of it. It's a must-win game. I think he needs to win it to try and just give himself a little bit of an easier week. I'm talking, of course, about Ian Cathro.
Yeah, I think he's actually very fortunate that the Hearts supporters have hung on in there. You know, he's sitting top of the league, sort of second top of the league for a long, long time, and now drifting down to 4th. There is a chance he could drift into 5th if they don't start winning games. So it'll be interesting to see what the Hearts supporters do if that actually happens.
Your old team going to get the win at Ross County, Gordon?
I can't see them getting that there. I think I would imagine. I believe that's going to be a draw today in that game.
Yep. And the last one, as we approach 3 o'clock, Hugh, we have a treble that we go for every week, and I've picked St Johnstone over Dundee. What about yourself?
I'm going to do you a favour here. I'm going to make sure that you're your leg of the treble comes up by being strongly in favour of Dundee. I really fancy Dundee today. I think they've changed their season round. I think the last couple of weeks, you saw a real vigour in them, a real sort of enterprise. And I think I don't think St Johnstone have been commanding at home this season, so I think Dundee will win. So that means your leg's up here, because my record of tipping, and particularly when I'm strong in my tipping, has been atrocious of late.
Yeah, you haven't been on top form. Ruffy, what is our treble today that we're keeping an eye on?
The treble today is yourself, St Johnstone. I went for Hearts, and Gordon has went for Stranraer.
Okay, Stranraer, well done to you, Gordon, for taking the obscure one there for us. That's absolutely
See, we're
fantastic.
in all the divisions in the game, not just the top division. We're
No, absolutely.
right across Scottish football.
Listen, if you're going to pick an easy one, you might as well go Stranraer, Queen's Park. Come on.
Queen's Park are above Stranraer.
Oh, no, I'm only kidding, Gus. You'll be all over me.
Queen's Park are above Stranraer in the league, sort of thing, but I just feel they're in good form just now, Stranraer, and I think they're going to win that game, so that's why I've chosen them.
Okay, well, fingers crossed. I mean, the great thing about a Saturday afternoon, there's a kind of a condescending look towards anyone when the team falls quickly. So we'll undoubtedly get that over the course of the afternoon. That's the Premiership, Championship, League One and League Two to keep you up to date with. There's one game that's finished already in the Emirates FA Cup, and it was Middlesbrough 0, Manchester City 2. Quite a few things that I want to get your thoughts on, guys, as well as looking towards the Old Firm too.
Quick goals. 1 minute, Livingston. Top of the league at the moment in the League One, but they've scored inside the first minute against East Fife, who are also a team who've been actually doing quite well of late.
That was a game of the day in that division, I would have thought.
Yeah, I thought so as well. So that's a bit of a good start for Livingston.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder as a manager, Ruffy, what you do when you've actually just given them the team talk, you're clapping the hand, you're giving everybody the high fives, going out the door, and they lose a goal inside 60 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know what's the worst time. At least with that one, you've got another 89 minutes.
89 minutes to get an equaliser.
I think just after half time and obviously into injury time are the two worst times.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we've got a goal already. There's lots to talk about over the course of the afternoon. There's some news items that I want to reflect on as well. One of them is the change at the SFA. Donald Park and Jim Fleeting have been brought under the umbrella of Project Brave. Now,
correction.
Hold on a second.
The Livingston goal. Has there been a correction already?
Yeah, absolutely. You've gone too early on that. I think what we'll do is we'll try and keep our calm on these, because when the referee disallows the goal, suddenly it takes a little twist for us.
Absolutely.
What do you make of this situation here? I'm looking at the appointment, and he's the director of coaching, Jim Fleeting. There's a slight change in the role. Donald Park also comes in to this Project Brave under Malcolm Mackay.
Well, Jim Fleeting's been there, for some considerable time, so I don't think it's any surprise that he's been retained. And Donald Park was, the moment that the SFA made Malky's announcement, the runner was Donald Park would be brought in as well. I'm not surprised by it at all. I think it's fairly straightforward and fairly predictable. As you know, my big problem with it is I see the great difficulty of trying in some way, the SFA wouldn't say impose it, but to try and put an operation into the sort of business when other businesses are not too keen on it. The tension there, I think is. I don't think you can overcome that. I think it's a hugely difficult task.
I think it's just a change of structure, because these guys, I don't know why. I think it's just another title they've got for probably the same thing they're doing, because they're changing the structure of the formation, all the different jobs. Because Jim Fleeting was running the coaching aspect within the SFA anyway. Yeah. He was the guy that runs all like the licenses and all that sort of thing.
Maybe the job remit has changed, Gordon.
Maybe that maybe it's slightly sort of changed the title of the job because of that as well, Peter. Yeah, you're right.
But it's the big problem with Project Brave. It's still trying to convince the clubs that this is in their best interest.
Yeah.
And it isn't in the best interest of the club. I don't care what way. You might say it's the best interest of Scottish football. You might say it's in the best interest for the broadest range of young players, but you can't say it's in the best interest of some clubs, because some clubs are going to lose it.
That'll be the key for you. The key will be the fact that they have to get the endorsement from
Exactly.
the whole of the game. You can't make decisions in football even at that level without having everybody involved.
What do you do if this goes wrong? Do you call for a number of heads to roll? Obviously, from the main guy, as Gordon has, witnessed on countless occasions within the SFA. What happens if it doesn't work?
Well, if you're asking me, I'm pretty convinced it doesn't work, because I can't see this key element again without of the clubs coming in and buying into it. I just can't see that. And if Stuart Regan has bought into it very heavily in time and effort, and it's one of his flagship policies, but I think somewhere along the line there will have to be compromise on this, and I think that might be the way. I think that's my way. I think by your suggestion and the question is perhaps would make his position at the SFA vulnerable? I don't think so. I think he's got enough leeway to have some kind of compromise that he remains in situ.
Well, my point on this, Gordon, is quite simply not necessarily the head roles for the top man or even Malky. My attitude is quite simply there are a number of people who have all held positions in the coaching here, and you can't keep pointing and saying it's their fault. It's all fragmented. You either produce the goods or you don't.
Well, that's right. But the point Hugh's made is correct too. That say you've got your Project Brave and you put it in, but then there's the clubs say we don't agree to this, we don't agree to that. So there has to be a compromise, say, in terms of the full plan. Then if it doesn't work, what do you say then? You say, well, it was because of the changes that you made us make. If you'd stuck to our original plan, it would have worked. So there could be a lot of...
So what you do then effectively is you just keep on paying the same people to make the same mistakes?
Absolutely, but you'll say the mistakes were catalogued by the people who actually decided to do this form of the actual plan. Do you know what I mean? So
it gives them so much room for manoeuvre.
It does, yeah.
Because you can say, if you stuck by my plan, who knows?
It would have worked, yeah.
But we're led to believe that these coaches, like just say Donald Park, is going to go to Aberdeen, Celtic, Rangers and watch a coaching section by the coaches at the club, and then if there's anything he doesn't like, he's going to say to them, you need to change that. That's not
That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. They will get hunted, and properly so. The idea is the clubs are independent businesses. The clubs, if you say to the clubs, are you in it for the benefit of Scottish football? They would all go in and they'd be honest about it. Of course we are. We love Scottish football. But if you said to them, would you prepare to lose Kieran Tierney to another Scottish club for the benefit of Scottish football? They go, you daft. You're mad.
Yeah.
The other side of it as well was, see that point you're making, Ruffy, that if they go to the clubs and they're looking at the coaches taking it and then they're not happy with it, the point you would say would be, wait a minute, these coaches are all licensed through the system that you've already got in place.
Yeah, can I just quickly interject here and tell you that it's now been confirmed that Pedro Caixinha is the new manager of Rangers on a 3-year deal. So Rangers finally get their man, and it's still to be confirmed whether he will indeed have any kind of input into tomorrow's game. He's been confirmed as the head coach of Rangers, signing a 3-year contract, Hugh.
Yeah, I'm well expected that as soon as he got off the plane. We've got a big goal in the championship, just unless it's been knocked off in 30 seconds.
Better wait.
Dumbarton seemed to have gone 1-0 at Wraith. But yeah, not unexpected that dear old Pedro's now in situ at Ibrox. 3 years, interesting times. I agree with Gordon. I think this is a risk to take a manager of this type on. I thought that at least they might have gone down the road of just getting somebody into the summer. I think it's completely. I know that insiders at Rangers would disagree totally with me on this and do disagree totally with this, but I'd have went down the director of football route first. I think that's the most important appointment, because that's the appointment that will set budgets, priorities, strategy for years. The managers will come and go, If Pedro's a success, he'll come and go, and if Pedro's a failure, he'll come and go. So I thought I'd have went down the director of football.
And you're right, you know what the other point about that too. You've then got a football person who is involved in the selection of the next manager too.
Exactly.
Somebody who's been involved in the game and knows the game well, who might say, my experience and my knowledge, my contacts are saying that this person would do the right job. You're right.
And this is a person I can work with because he has the same philosophy of football. He agrees that the way we have to work is within, for example, a very tight budget. He agrees about, I mean, there'll be managers out there who might even have been looking at, I mean, I think I've watched a bit of Rangers youth football, and I would say there's maybe 2 players in the under-19 era that you could throw in and just say, instead of having loan signings, we're not going to have loan signings. We're going to go with 18, 19-year-olds and that'll be our plan. So that's what I'm saying. If you've got a director of football that says, yeah, that is my philosophy, the whole thing rumbles on, and if your manager gets sacked because he's poor or he moves on because he's good, the director of football's still there.
The other aspect of it, the director of football who's coming in now is going to be second choice now, because we all know that the guy who was offered the job, Wilson, is turned it down.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Montrose 0, Stirling 1, Darren Smith with a goal. Dumbarton do indeed have that lead by a goal to 0. It was Thompson who scored the goal for Dumbarton. So, again, you just can't second guess Steve Aitken's side. Sometimes this season they've come up with results that I think what we call coupon busters regularly, Ruffy.
Yeah, it used to be in years gone by. It was when they would go to the big sides away from home and they would get a result. But seemingly they're doing it at home now. You know, they're getting results. They're digging themselves right out of a hole, because I think a couple of months ago, I think we all would have predicted that they would be in the team that was going to get relegated, but all credit to them, you know, the resources that they've got.
Well, it's a big game because Wraith are sitting at the moment 2 points ahead of Dumbarton. So if Dumbarton were to get the win today, they jump into 4th bottom spot. So this is a game they'd obviously want to win.
Let me tell you this, Josh King has missed a penalty for Bournemouth, and then West Ham have gone up the other end of the park, and Mikel Antonio has scored for West Ham, so they're a goal up in that match. And as you had pointed out as well, Gordon, Bournemouth at times struggling to get any great consistency in wins, so they're up against it there, West Ham, with the opening goal. As far as the Premiership is concerned, we are still waiting on the big goals from the games that are taking place today, but the big news is Pedro Caixinha is the new head coach at Rangers. He'll probably bring his backroom staff in over the next couple of days as well, and he wants to do things his way, and I'm hearing that he's very big on fitness, Gordon, and that's going to be a key element of it. Sometimes I've been told that he likes double sessions, and in some cases, depending on the time of the season, triple sessions.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised by that, because a lot of the foreign coaches do. I mean, I found when I went to play abroad, it was much stricter. I mean, even in Austria and Switzerland, never got a day off. You never ever got a day off. It was like you were in even a day after the match, you were in training again. And so that's very much the way. There was more testing for physicality, all that sort of thing. So I would imagine if you've got somebody in there who's very keen on fitness, that's going to be a benefit to Rangers, because if you can get your players as fit as they can possibly be, then players play as well as they can possibly play.
Well, here's a big score that certainly, if you are a St Mirren fan, you'll be just looking on and wondering if this can stay the same. It's Ayr United 0, Falkirk 1, Hugh McDonald, and Nathan Austin with the goal. So, big goal there, Ayr United up against it.
Yeah, every game in the Championship today, there's only 4 matches, and we know that last night's game was a crucial game at the top. But every game in the Championship today has got something on it, something really important on it, and this game is huge for both sides. I think the way that the Falkirk are playing at the moment, Ayr United, you know, I know they're very enterprising under Ian McCall. I've watched them a couple of times. They would take a draw today. They would have taken a draw and moved on from that, because Falkirk is certainly the form team at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in the Championship today, Peter, we're going to be going to the results back and forward on a regular basis, because now at the bottom of that league it's really interesting. And Dumbarton, that goal for Dumbarton, and Dumbarton's performance this season, if you said to Dumbarton at the beginning of the season, you're going to be out of that, you're going to be out of the playoff spots, or the relegation spot, they'd be delighted. And Pedro, I think there's good news for the Peter Martin Aka, because
Yes.
Johnson are 1-0 up.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Payton has scored the goal. Remember that condescending look I was telling you about? I'm just looking at Ruffy now as if to say, Ruffy, I said Barcelona midweek. I'm saying St Johnstone to you now, but I'll counter that by using the expertise of the old man in the sea on my left-hand side here, Ruffy, and say there's a long way to go. There's a few twists and turns certainly going to happen in the Championship. So Pedro Caixinha is the new head coach at Rangers, confirmed. He will, I think, and I think you summed it up perfectly, Gordon, will walk into Celtic Park and wonder what has happened, because the atmosphere, I think, tomorrow is going to be, again, something special.
Yeah.
I think we're getting back to that time, although Rangers are, the gap between Rangers and Celtic is huge at the moment. You're still getting that little element that we missed for 4 years of the rivalry between them. That little,
Yeah, I mean, he will see that. I mean, he's probably been told about it, but to actually go and experience it will be massive for him. Especially, as I say, when he's currently playing for managing a team whose average crowd is 400, and there's going to be 60,000 people there tomorrow. A lot of noise, a lot of atmosphere, and he's going to think, this is playing against the two teams playing that are quite a distance apart in the league, and yet there's this real rivalry here. There's this belief the Rangers fans will have, and the desire to win. Celtic fans will have that too. I think Celtic will go beyond the desire to win tomorrow. They'll be want to win comfortably because they'll believe they can win anyway. So it'll be a case of how many, as opposed to Rangers will just be out there and the fans will just be wanting to get anything. And they would settle. I'm pretty sure right now Rangers fans would settle for a draw.
Yep, Ruffy?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Rangers obviously go into the game as underdogs, obviously, and the evidence of the last time there, the 5-1 game, okay, the sending off flattered that scoreline a wee bit, but it'll be interesting to see how Rangers set their stall out, if they try and frustrate Celtic early on, sit in, make it difficult, because even in that 5-1 game, the first 15 minutes Rangers were holding their own. And it's okay as all saying there is a gap. We know there's a gap. We know they've got better players than Rangers. But in a derby game, strange things can happen, and we've all been at these games where you think the prediction's going to be 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden it's not. But in form, you would think eventually, with the players that Celtic have got, they would break the Rangers' defence down. In the light of the way Rangers are losing goals, the goals they lost against Inverness, the goals they lost against Dundee, if they're capable of scoring 2 goals when Rangers are away from home, you would think that Celtic would be capable of getting 2 goals as well.
Yep. Here's a quick little look at Pedro Caixinha now that the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted. He's got the jersey. That's the official photograph. He's there at Ibrox, and he's now got a job on his hands to close the gap. And I would go back over what Ali McCoy said in midweek. It's not so much now about the qualities of the coach, it's how much money he's going to get to implement his own ideas, Hugh McDonald.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be a whole sea change at Rangers, a whole culture change at Rangers. Yeah. Everybody you hear talking, whether the Rangers players, ex-Rangers players, and all that, they're just all going back to, we've got to throw money in, and you say, whoa, there is no money. There is no money. You're going to need 3 million to finish the season. How about just sitting down and saying, let's have a plan to develop players, to accept where the club is in the present situation and move forward with that?
Yeah, with all due respect to you, Hugh, I mean, I'm listening to you there and I'm thinking, yeah, wonderfully logical, but this is an illogical city. I mean, you're now in a situation where Rangers fans are now looking and saying, this could be 10 in a row. They don't want that, so the pressure gets cranked up. It's the same as the 9 in a row situation with Celtic. The Celtic fans, were apoplectic at times with rage when it wasn't going their way.
But the Celtic hierarchy then said, well, fine. Fergus famously said, let it be 20 in a row. I'm going to run the club the way I think the club should be run.
Yeah.
I'm going to fiscally be responsible.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the things that I have said. He couldn't, honestly, if he just say 20 or 30, I can't care what's happening at Ibrox.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think it's a fiscally responsible board that's set out a plan and they're not going to deviate as the pressure intensifies?
I think, the answer is, Peter, there is no money there. That's the answer. So you've got to say, if you're going to put in money, if you're going to be fiscally imprudent, shall we say, and put in money, it's got to come from the directors. Now, is there the appetite for the directors like Douglas Park and George Leatham and the rest of them who have put in £3 or £4 million of their own money? Are they willing to go in another 5 each? I don't know them. I don't know. But there's only 2 ways of getting money in football because of our television deal being so poor and the merchandising deal at Rangers being default. I mean, just been terrible for them. They get money from 2 sources: their fans on season tickets or their directors.
Yeah.
There is no third way because they can't borrow.
Yep, with that in mind, you can give us your view at Peter and Ruffy, and that's on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy as well. As you can see, we're keeping you right up to date with the goals as well, and we will also hear from Graham Murty very shortly. Berwick Rangers 0, Cowdenbeath 1. Of course, Gary Locke now in charge at Cowdenbeath. Ruffy, we were speaking to him outside Easter Road. And he was just desperately trying to get back in, and this has been a quick return to football for him.
Yeah, I think when you're a manager, you don't want to be at the game too long, and certainly, obviously, they approached him. I don't know if it's just until the end of the season, but it keeps him in there, and obviously with that goal today, they'll be hoping he can get a win in his first game. But St Johnstone have just went 2-0
Happy
up.
face from Peter there, 2-0.
Yeah,
that was me tipping Dundee was the classic sucker punch for you.
Yeah, the last thing I want to do on this programme, Hugh, is gloat.
So you're going to leave it to 10 to 6?
Probably about 10 to 6, yeah, absolutely, to annoy everyone. Blair Alston scoring the goal there. So Pedro Cachina might take his place in the stand. Whether he has any words of motivation for the players ahead of it, only time will tell. That will probably just filter out at some point. But as far as the game itself, Graham Murty is going to be the man in charge. Now, interestingly enough, some of the newspaper headlines that have been out and about, I don't know if we've got I think we might have a little copy of some of the back pages that have been surfacing this morning, because Graham Murty was quick to point out, we'll hear from him in a second, but Graham Murty was quick to point out Macca, who's a regular on our programme, Andy Walker, the Sky Sports pundit as well, 2 former Celtic players and strikers. I think Andy felt as if Rangers were timid and weak, and Frank McAvenny has suggested that this game could be, a high score in favour of Celtic. So I'm not too sure that the Rangers interim coach was happy with that. Here's the pages, and of course the motivation, quite simply, is Graham Murty takes the back page of the Sun and fires that right up onto the wall as the players come into the dressing room. Gordon Smith, and he'll also just say, "I don't need to do a team talk." Does it work?
Yeah, there is a degree of that. I can imagine the players would be annoyed about that, and if they need any motivation, which they shouldn't really, considering the fact you should always be motivated anyway, and get into an Old Firm game, you don't really require any further motivation. But maybe it's just a way of using it to say, look, don't make sure you don't get embarrassed, and it could maybe just get that little bit extra adrenaline just to say, well, we're not going to be embarrassed in this game by either the result or the performance.
Was there anything in your careers, both of you, that was in newspapers that fired you up to be better? Any one occasion?
Not really, no. I can't think of anything like that. Can you, Ruffy?
No, I think you respond if people think you had a bad game the week before, and if you're cheating yourself. If the way I always looked at it, if you went to Parkhead or Ibrox and you were the star man, you got up on a Sunday morning and you bought all the papers because you knew your name was going to be on the headlines. But you've got to be big enough, if you've thrown one in the back, to get up the next Sunday and read the same paper. Yeah. So the motivation is to prove people wrong, and that's the way.
It was nice to get praise, but I found that I judged myself, and regardless of what MD was going to say after the game, I had my own opinion on what I did. sometimes really disappointed. Even if we won and I didn't play well, I was actually on a downer with that. It was just the fact that I wanted to do as well as I could all the time. So I was judging myself and quite harsh on that. So it didn't matter to me what MD was saying about my performance. If I played well and I thought I played well, then the next day I was getting like 6 out of 10 or whatever. It never bothered me because I thought, well, the guy's got it wrong. And played all right.
Was there anybody in your career, like probably your dad, just saying, go to him?
What do you laugh at?
I remember you saying if you got a 6 out of 10, you knew you were at least a 9.
I judged myself. I knew if I get 6 out of 10 and I deserved a 6 out of 10, I didn't have a problem with that. But if I get 6 and I should have had a 9, it didn't bother me. I just said the guy. I always wondered at times. Press guys would know better than me, but sometimes I think they get told afterwards to give everybody points, and they can't even think back. How did he actually play? I can't remember. They just give you points.
So you're suggesting there. I just don't want to misquote you. You're suggesting there's a complete lack of effort in this. I thought
man by man.
Sometimes
it's almost as if he's been sitting next to them.
Sometimes I was, but as I say, my dad, when I was young, when I was a kid, it was quite funny because he used to be out. He would come to the game, and I'd say to him, "How do you think I did?" And he would go like, "What about that chance you missed?" And I'd say, "I scored 4, Dad." And he'd go, "I know, but you could have 5." Right? So he was always quite hard on me, you know.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to Neil McCann. He's got the same. I was interviewing him. He's got the same view as you. He judged himself on every game. He sat down almost forensically, went through the match in his head, and came to his own point of view. And to such an extent that sometimes his dad would come into the living room and he'd be sitting there as a young player, and he would say, "Oh, I thought you played really well today," and he went, "No, not Dad, just didn't." And he wouldn't take it for any outside source. He was very hard on himself, decided what it was. And the thing I'm alluding to here is like motivation. I'm not a professional sportsman, never have been a professional, but the idea of somebody writing in the Sun, motivating, or the Record, or the Herald, or the Daily Mail even, motivating me, I'm going, no, if I'm going to play a sport, if I'm Andy Murray or Lionel Messi or anybody, and I'm going to play the biggest game of my season, if I need motivation from people putting bits of it on the wall, I'm a dud.
To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, let's hear from Graham Murty on this, because the interim boss will go in there, he'll put it up on the wall. If anything, to maybe get an extra 5% as far as aggression or whatever, but he's going to use it as a motivation.
Everything's been written about them, they've been written off, and Celtic are fantastic, and we're going to get an absolute doing. And I don't actually have to motivate them. I just say to them, this is what the world thinks about you. You can either listen to the noise, or you can actually be really, really close together and stick together and go and show them what we're about. And thankfully, you've all done my job for me.
Well, let's be brutal about this, Ruffy. Quite simply, you can motivate the players all you want, but if they can't play...
Exactly. But, so does that mean if you put it up in the wall in the dressing room and you get beat 5-0, that means you haven't motivated yourself? Of course it does. It's there to get a sort of a reaction and make people think, but it's not going to... As soon as you walk onto that part, these things that are in the dressing room wall aren't going to affect anything in the game at all.
But it's all that 110%, 120% nonsense. It's 100% you can give, right? And that's what you give. Yeah. Do you imagine Jamie Delgado going, saying, Andy Murray saying, any last thoughts, Jamie, before going and centre court? And Jamie say, well, it was a bad tweet. Roger Federer's just tweeted about you and said, he expects to win the day, so that'll make you 2% better. I'm 100% already. I've done everything possibly right. Diet, training, warm-up, motivation. I want to win every game. I just think it's an old chestnut.
Yeah, I think you're as good as your ability allows you to be. If anything, the part that I think where there is a deviation is aggression, adrenaline, that surge, physicality. How far you're going to push yourself to beyond what you would normally do. That's the only variant here. You might disagree and give us your thoughts on it. We're going to go to the Championship because goals in short supply today. Are we looking any closer to a goal at New St Mirren Park, Des McKeown?
27 minutes gone, Peter, and you've joined me just at a very important point, because Stephen Mallon is stepping over a free kick from about 25 yards. It's been deflected wide for a corner. We're no closer to a goal here. St Mirren went close after 3 minutes. Lewis Morgan's effort from a Stevie Mallon corner direct to the box was blocked. Dunfermline then went up the other end of the park. Paul McMullen centre to Callum Higginbotham. His shot was comfortably saved by Billy O'Brien. And then the best opportunity, it came from literally nothing. A headed clearance out to Adam Eckersley, 30 yards out. An absolute pile driver touched over the bar by Sean Murdoch in the Pars goal. So 27.5 minutes gone. It's still goalless here in Paisley.
Okay, thanks to Des McKeown. We'll come back there. We'll also get at half-time an update from Partick Thistle against Inverness Cali Thistle, where Kevin Harper is watching that game for us. Goals that have been scored already in the Premiership in Scotland. St Johnstone leading Dundee by 2-0. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Hugh MacDonald are here with me. If you just joined us on STV, Pedro Caixinha has been confirmed as the head coach of Rangers ahead of the game tomorrow. Celtic against Rangers. It's a 12 noon kick-off. The city buzzing at the moment. Some Celtic and Rangers fans will be kicking their heels wondering what they do on a Saturday afternoon. Some people go out shopping. Some people just actually sit back for the 4 hours and watch the programme here and give us your thoughts. We're going to read out some of your tweets and your messages at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Graham Murty's been talking about the motivation, and he's also been discussing the fact that he's got to try and get the best out of his team. Over and above that, he didn't probably expect to be in the dugout in charge of the Old Firm game, but he's there.
If I'm honest, I didn't until yesterday consider that it would be me. So it's been the best way I can think to approach it, because I've not let it get too big. I've not let it dominate my thoughts for too long. I've got no doubt it will from now on, but the bit I'm going to try and use is to try and look at the players and see what they need, because I've got no doubt that we'll have a hard time. It'll be a hard game, but I have to put myself to the back of my mind, if that's possible, and look at them, because they've got a massive task. So I just trying to get everything that they need over to them and be as clear in my mind as I can be for them.
Well, he's best placed, Ruffy, to pick the starting 11. I mean, we've picked a probable line-up here. There might be the odd one surprise. Sometimes you're never quite sure if somebody's picked up an injury. But does that look like an 11 that will start for you? Give or take Miller maybe swapping with Waghorn in that position there?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, with Gardner being out and Kane being out as well, you know, I think the team picks itself. I don't think he could surprise anybody in the Celtic dressing room when the team lines come out. I think they'll know exactly what they're going to get. Again, if you go back to Rangers, have they improved since the last time they were there? I don't think so. You know, and obviously I think the last time we were there, the big players we were talking about for the Rangers team was Barton and Cranshaw, and the two of them just got overrun that day. The game passed them by so quickly early on. And I think the same might happen tomorrow with Hyman and Tyrrell, is it?
Yeah, Tyrrell.
Tyrrell. And I think it's a big game for they two, because they're two big players for Rangers. And if they get overrun the way Barton and Cranshaw get overrun, I think it could be trouble.
Yeah, Josh King missed a penalty for Bournemouth, but he's equalised now. Bournemouth won, West Ham won in the Premier League in England. The FA Cup match that kicked off early today finished Middlesbrough 0, Manchester City 2. Yeah, just on that point, Gordon, we've got it as a 4-3-3 there, but it almost certainly will be, I beg your pardon, I would suggest 4-5-1?
4-5-1 possibly, but if it was me, I would be going with a 5 at the back. I would play I would play 3 centre backs. Whether you bring in Senderos or Hodgson to come in and make it up, and with Kiernan not being available, I would play that way. So that you're going to have a 5, because I do think that both Rangers full-backs, and particularly Tavernier, is weak in the defensive side of things, and I think he's vulnerable. So I think that I'd have another centre back in there, maybe even Hodgson, because Sinclair's coming in from that side, and he's a big threat. He really is a threat, not only for making goals, but he can score as well. And I think you need more of a defender in that area than Tavernier is.
Yeah, I think rather than personnel tomorrow, the crucial thing for Rangers is the tactical setup, the whole shape. I think they've got bad news for the ACA at the moment. Gordon's selection 1-0 down. The Spiders are Spiders from Mars are 1-0 up in Stranraer. Yeah. But I think the big thought, I mean, Graham was saying there, my thoughts haven't been on the game and things like that. I'm pretty sure his thoughts have been on the game for the last few days, because he's had to look at a shape of a team. I think Celtic wide are really strong, especially on the left-hand side. They're almost English Premiership strong. They've got Tierney, and I think the best player in Scotland at the moment, Scott Sinclair, on that left-hand side, and they have to counter that. And not only do they have to counter that, Sinclair's movement is so good that when he comes inside, you've got to pass him on to somebody immediately. You can't just let him and have 10 yards. Because if he's 10 yards, he just comes in and does that clip shot, or he runs through, or he plays 1-2s. So I think 3 centre-halves where you pass him from the full-back onto a centre-half almost immediately is crucial. I think Rangers tomorrow would be an old Walter Smith lineup of 5-4-1.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
If he is indeed talking to some people that he has mentioned, he's been discussing how he sets the team out over the last 2 or 3 weeks. One wonders if he will sit down with Kashinya and talk over how the team should line up as well. Of course, when he gets into that dugout, he's going to have to react, and he's up against a manager that's receiving all sorts of plaudits for the performance of his team. They're unbeaten in 34 games and 33 points ahead of Rangers. This is what Brendan Rodgers had to say about the man who'll be in the dugout opposite him, Graham Murty.
He was obviously come in and done an excellent job. You know, it's not an easy situation at all when you're working with the younger players, and then you've got to step into the position when the manager goes. But he's gone in, he's got a wee taste of it, and I'm sure whichever way it works out for him, that he'll have benefited from it. So, and of course, coming to Celtic Park on Sunday, I'm sure he's looking forward to it. So. But no, it is what it is. The players have to be professional. They have to be focused, and I'm sure they'll be coming to get a good result.
I don't think it's healthy, Ruffy, that people are thinking that this one's going to be a hammering.
No, I don't think it will be a hammering. I think Rangers have to be organised. I think they will be organised. They've got experienced players there. But as we said earlier, Old Firm games can be determined in the first 5-10 minutes. You know, I keep talking about, and I've never played in one, so I'm only talking about looking at experience. If you get a goal in an Old Firm game in the first 5 minutes, the other team's in the back foot for 20 minutes because they're conscious of losing another one. So your game plan goes out of the window a wee bit. So it's all about how the game goes and when the goals go in. Celtic have played teams in our league and struggled for 44 minutes against like Hamilton, Motherwell. But eventually, if you're chasing the game, there's gaps going to appear sometime, and that's what Celtic do. They just wear you down. So although you might be coming up with half time and it's nothing each, and you'll be going, oh, we're quite comfortable here, this is good, we're holding Celtic to nothing each. Something's going to happen sometime. It might be in the second half, you know, maybe late on in the game. But eventually, Celtic will get chances, and that's, you just have to look at the stats this year, the shots on target, the shots not on target, the domination, the possession. It's all there, and it'd have to be.
That's why Hugh and I agree to it. It then comes down to the fact that it's Rangers have got a vulnerability at the back in terms of they've got players at times that don't pick up and make mistakes, right? And that's why you need to get the system right. You need to become very tight so that if somebody is making a mistake, somebody else is close enough to cover. And I think a back four will struggle against Celtic because of what we've spoken about before. The danger that Celtic are in wide areas. I mean, they might have Forrest in the team, they might have Roberts. Sinclair certainly is a danger, and Dembele is too. So you've got to have a system whereby you're filling the space there and you're making it difficult for Celtic to play. That's what they need to do.
And I think the big problem with Rangers is the big comfort. I don't think it'll be a runaway victory at all. Because if you look at Celtic's recent results at Parkhead to teams in the league, it has generally been, a 2-0 year, because teams are sitting in and it's difficult to break them down. But I think the big problem with Rangers is Celtic certainly look the fittest team in the league, and they look like a team that can go 90 minutes and beyond. And they've also just simply got more resources than Rangers, not just on the park, but on the bench. I mean, we're sitting at the moment discussing, will Forrest play it? And I think he probably will, because he's Brendan Rodgers' favourite. Yeah. But Roberts is an outstanding. Roberts is a £12 million player, and Roberts is a player that came on in the last derby match and set up the winner. You know, so
they've got Griffiths as well.
Griffiths will sit there. I mean, you've got Gamboa at fullback, who I think has played really well, but he'll play Lustig. Yeah. I mean, they've got players that can come off and really change the game. But I go back to the things at the beginning. I mean, we talked about it the other day. I've been watching Celtic and Rangers matches from the late 1950s, and I've watched some incredible results. I mean, people have gone along to... I mean, we talked about the other day, the Dr. Joe Venglis era, when Celtic fans were going along to Paris and said, what are we going to get today? And they got a 5-1 win.
I know. Well, Martin O'Neill got a
6-2 in his first
victory, and then his next game was a 5-1 defeat.
Yeah, so, absolutely. I mean, at that point, when you were watching that football all that time ago, were the ration books over then?
Right,
was that finished?
That was it. We just retreated from Berlin at that time. We'd just been walking home from Berlin. It was amazing in those days that the level of football as well. Because I was thinking the other day, there was one of these Twitter things where people are putting out tweets on best Celtic team ever, and somebody, a very respected and noted Celtic historian, had put Scott Brown in the best Celtic team ever in the history of Celtic, and not picked Kenny Dalglish in it.
Wow.
Which you go...
I know.
Well, the historian?
Yeah.
I don't know if you...
Scott Brown?
I mean, I just think Scott Brown is in a different postcode from the best Celtic 11 ever.
Yeah.
Not to...
Could you write down the name of that historian? I need to call him because there are two players that you automatically would put on there. I think Dalglish is up there.
Who would be the other one?
Well, in fact, I'm thinking three right away. Then straight away, when if you're picking a greatest ever, you just go, okay, Jimmy Johnson, Kenny Dalglish, and Danny McGrain, and then you have the supporting cast of the other two world-class players at Bertiold. And if Bertiold tells me Tommy Gemmell and Bobby Murdoch were world-class, then they're in as well.
Yeah.
And then after that, you've got to pick Henke.
Aye. Yep, absolutely.
So Henrik Larsson.
No complaints about any ones that you mentioned at all, and I think honourable mentions to such as George Conley as well, who perhaps didn't. Good, but he was an astonishing player.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And Bobby Lennox, who's the most winning Celt ever. If you want to ask Bobby Lennox to show his medals, you better book a weekend.
Yeah, well, one thing I think is unhealthy is right now I get a sense, you might disagree with me on this, Ruffy, but I get a sense that there's a real feeling that Celtic are going to hand out a hammering. Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic manager, is having none of that. He doesn't think this one is going to be a walkover.
Another tough game, like all our games are. Celtic Rangers, the games that I've been involved in so far have been fantastic games, and of course we've played well in the 3 games and got the result. But we always anticipate a tough game, and I'm sure this one will be no different. I've enjoyed all the games up here managing Celtic, but of course the Celtic Rangers game, is well renowned throughout the world as one of the great derby games, if not the greatest derby game. So yeah, it's a real intense affair. Supporters are very passionate, and of course the Celtic Park game was a great start, being the first one for us. So if we can play to that level and play to how we have been for most of the season, then we hope that can get us a result.
Later on in the programme, we'll hear from Moussa Dembele and Jason Holt, and we'll also hear from Andy Walker and Ali McCoys. They offer their opinion on the game, and Barry Ferguson and Bobby Petta in a special little package looking ahead to the match. So there's lots to get through, and then we'll have the predictions from our pundits as well. The reason why we haven't consistently given you updates on some of the goals is because there's only been 2 goals in the Premiership in Scotland. That's at McDermott Park. St Johnstone leading by 2-0, and goals are in short supply. And the story at Tynecastle, Ruffy, is quite simply Hearts pressing as much as possible, Hamilton sitting in, hoping to hit them on the counter.
Yeah, and that's the way Hamilton play. You know, they can frustrate you. Yeah, we know that they'll all be fighting for each other as a team. But again, you know, they're the same circumstances, and if it keeps that way, everything will be fine. But as soon as Hearts score a goal, you're looking at Hamilton, you're going away from home, you know, are you going to get a goal? You know, because that's just the way that they play. But I mean, if it stayed that way, it would be very encouraging if it ended up nothing each for them.
Alloa 1, Stenhousemuir 0. Dylan Mackin with the goal. So the lower leagues are providing us with some updates. We'll be going to New St Mirren Park for a half-time report from Des McKeown very shortly indeed, and to Firhill for Kevin Harper's report on the first half, which is still crying out for a goal. And a word for Motherwell, because it's 0-0 up there at Pittodrie, Hugh McDonald.
Well, and that's, you know, I thought it would be a tight game. I thought Robinson would set this team up, you know, obviously part of the old bus there, and I'm not surprised at that. I still think Aberdeen have got really decent quality in the front six, and I think they'll create chances and maybe just take one.
Yeah, and Craig Sampson's just touched Niall McGinn's shot over the bar, so again, a little bit of pressure from Aberdeen building up now. We were talking about possible lineups. We've looked at Rangers lineup, Gordon. What do you make of this Celtic one? Hugh alluded to it earlier, which is quite simply James Forrest in the lineup for Celtic, possibly Patrick Roberts. Some people would like to see him there. Is that along familiar lines for you?
Yeah, it is for me. I can't see much change from that. Maybe Forrest or Roberts would be the only options, I think, but that is probably in terms of form, that is probably Celtic's strongest lineup they could put out.
Yeah. The other thing, I was talking to John Kennedy last night, Ruffy, and the point that he was making was that they have options. They can change things. There is a plan B on the bench.
Yeah, there certainly is. And before, you know, there wasn't a plan B because certain players weren't at the level that they're at now. So, like Boyata, if he was to walk on the park last year, the Celtic supporters would be going, "Oh my God!" You know. But now, these players that were now doubts when they got in the first team are all playing particularly well. So, yeah, right. You know, the squad is very, very strong. Whereas, again, if you look at the Rangers bench, when you want to change things, there's not the same strength and depth.
Because you've got McGregor in there as well that can come in. You've got Griffiths can change a game, and you've got Roberts who can come on. Oh, by the way, Dumbarton have gone 2-0 up, another goal in the Championship. Dumbarton leading against Wraith Rovers 2-0. But you've got Celtic have got players, better options to change things than Rangers have, because I don't know, because even Rangers with that lineup we've shown them, you know, you think, so who they could bring on, because obviously Garner's not available. Do you know what I mean? So they haven't got the shot as the strikers, even just to change that. So, and Kiernan's obviously suspended as well. So
I wouldn't be surprised when we're talking about Mackay, Wycorn, and Miller playing. I think he'll play Miller, and I think he'll play Miller up alone. But I wouldn't be surprised that if either Mackay or Wycorn was sacrificed for another kind of midfield type, or a Hodgson, or, you know, somebody in, because they don't want to go that way.
The thing is we're saying that the strength and depth is in that Celtic dugout. You guys, and I probably would agree with you, that the Rangers have to be better defensively. You're saying bringing in another centre half. So now you've got the scenario in a defensive situation where they haven't been good. You maybe have Senderos and Wilson who aren't good enough for the first team. And now they're playing in a derby game.
Well, that's the crucial thing about Celtic. They've now got players that they can come in, and one player who's, I think, I mean, we all talked about Armstrong and how great he is, but I think Henderson is now. Henderson's now looking like a real football player for Celtic.
Very good.
I think his final ball is very good.
In the Premier League in England, Everton 2, West Brom 0. Morgan Schneiderlin scoring his first goal for the Toffees. Let's go to New St Mirren Park. It's half time in the Championship. Des McKeown is there for St Mirren Dunfermline.
Half time here in Paisley at St Mirren 0, Dunfermline Athletic 0. Chances have been at a premium, and goal scoring opportunities, clear goal scoring opportunities, are really non-existent, Peter. As I explained earlier in the roundup, we had a chance for Lewis Morgan after only about 3 minutes. Stevie Mallon picked him out brilliantly from a corner, a driven corner to the edge of the box. Lewis Morgan took a touch, had a goal-bound shot blocked on the line. Just shortly afterwards, Adam Eckersley then hit a 30-yarder with a left foot arrowing into the top corner. Sean Murdoch tips it over the bar. For Dunfermline, after about 12 minutes, Paul McMullen was released down the left-hand side. His centre found Callum Higginbotham and he just smothered the shot. Didn't quite get it away. Comfortable save for Billy O'Brien. Interested to hear Alan Johnston's comments after the game, because in 31 minutes John Hearn fed the ball into the box. Paul McMullen got it under control, went down under a challenge, but Stephen Finney, the referee, waved play on. It looked as if it could have been given as a penalty from where we are sitting. Half time at the Paisley 2021 Stadium. It's St Mirren 0, Dunfermline Athletic 0.
And just coming back to you on that, Des, I mean, goals in short supply, but when you hear what's happening at Somerset Park, you know, Jack Ross will surely be emphasising to the players at half-time that this is a great chance to capitalise on what would be an expected win for the Bairns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think given that Falkirk in such a good run, I think Jack would have come into this game knowing that if Falkirk turn up at Somerset Park, they will get 3 points. It's up to St Mirren to do the needful here for his hopes of climbing above the honest men.
Okay, thanks to Des. Robert Thompson incidentally scored that goal for Dumbarton in their 2-goal advantage over Wraith Rovers. Hearts are a goal up now on Hamilton Accies. They've been knocking on the door, Ruffy, and that will be welcome relief, because had the whistle blown, you know, yet again I think the Tynecastle fans would have let them know what they thought.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, you've got, it's okay having 16,000 people there when you're winning, but when you're not getting results, you know, the pressure starts to mount on the park. A lot of new players there, you know, have to get their heads round that. But certainly when you get a goal just before half time, the place will be buzzing. It means the team talk's going to be different as well when you get in the dressing room. So yeah, I think it's an uphill task now for Hamilton.
Now Jim with the goal, and that could be a huge one for Hearts. Will they be able to build on that in this second half? Coming up in the next part of the programme, we'll bring you all the half-time scores, and we will hear from another 2 players that are going to be involved in the big game tomorrow, Celtic against Rangers. Jason Holt and Moussa Dembele will be giving us their thoughts on the match as well. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Hugh McDonald are with me here. You can interact with us as well. Give us your thoughts on how you think the Old Firm game will end up at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Join us after the break. We'll go through all 4 divisions in Scotland. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. We're keeping you up to date with all the goals as they hit the back of the net across all 4 divisions in Scotland. We will look at the FA Cup and the 3 Premier League games in England as well. Let's go to Firhill. Half-time, Partick Thistle, Inverness, Cali Thistle. Kevin Harper.
Half-time here, Peter. It's Partick Thistle 0, Inverness 0. And the story of the first half is Partick Thistle totally dominant. I can only say that, Peter, without scoring. They've got to the box. Inverness have defended very, very well, the 18-yard box, but Partick Thistle's final ball into the goal has been very, very disappointing. Crosses have been hitting the first man and going long, but they did have claims for a penalty just midway through the first half. A cross from the right-hand side, and Chris Doolan was trying to win the ball against Gary Warren. Gary Warren just climbed over him. Both players fell. Thistle fans were up in arms, but for me, it would have been a very, very soft penalty. But 5 minutes before the end of the first half, Inverness had the ball in the back of the net. It was good interchange play with Barry Mackay and Greg Tansey. Ball landed at Mackay. He finished it, but Tansey was offside. Here at Firhill, Partick Thistle 0, Inverness Cali 0.
Well, there you are. That'll be a contentious point. It'll be interesting to see what the managers have to say at the end of that. Let's quickly take you through, including that Partick Thistle Inverness half-time score. The rest of the Premiership: Aberdeen 0, Motherwell 0, Hearts 1, Hamilton Accies 0, Partick Thistle 0, Inverness Cali Thistle 0, Ross County 0, Kilmarnock 0, and St Johnstone 2, Dundee 0. In the Championship, Ayr United 0, Falkirk 1, Dumbarton 2, Wraith Rovers 0, St Mirren 0, Dunfermline 0, Morton 0, Queen of the South 0. And the reason for that is it kicks off at 5:15, so it's going to be 0-0 for quite a long time before they get onto the park. In League 1, Albion Rovers 0, Airdronians 1, Alloa 1, Stenhousemuir 0, Livingston 0, East Fife 0, Peterhead 0, Brecon City 0, and Stranraer 0, Queen's Park 1. In League 2, Annan Athletic 1, Elgin City 0, Arbroath 1, Clyde 0, Berwick Rangers 0, Cowdenbeath 1, Forfar 1, Elgin City 0, Montrose 0, Stirling Albion 1. Down south in the English Premier League, 3 games in the top flight: Bournemouth 1, West Ham 1, Everton 2, West Brom 0, Hull 0, Swansea 0. The FA Cup 6th round, one match kicked off at 12:15. Today it finished Middlesbrough 0, Manchester City 2, and Arsenal against Lincoln City is 5:30 tonight. And we will keep you up to date with the early part of that game coming up in the next part of the programme. Second half will be underway across all 4 divisions in Scotland. If there's a goal, and we're going to keep you up to date with it. The emphasis very much on Scottish football. If you can't get to a game, stick with us here. And remember, later on, as well as Moussa Dembele and Jason Holt, we'll hear from Ali McCoist, Andy Walker, Barry Ferguson, Bobby Petta, and Gordon Smith and Hugh McDonald will give us their opinion on the outcome of the Celtic Rangers match, and Ruffy will give us his opinion on who he thinks is going to win the Glasgow Derby. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Sometimes I always feel as if on this programme you can actually make a programme out of the break, because we still argue with each other, Hugh. I mean, that's the great thing about it. I mean, if you've got real strong friends, you can have a real ding-dong battle. And I think with an Old Firm derby coming up, you know, that's you can tell the tension's in the room.
Talking about that as well, remember the referees debate? You were going to come in with a great big dossier of all the big games.
Yes.
Referees,
and I am going to supply you with that dossier.
After about 6 years, you're going to supply me with that one.
No, I'm actually going to give you that dossier this week of all the games. And remember, by the way, the other thing I was going to say to you, I don't want to start a referees angle
Why
here,
not?
is because what I don't want to happen, and you did it brilliantly the other week there, and I didn't want to pick you up because we were too busy arguing with each other, is you started to say, and I'm not accepting Super Cups. Yeah, so suddenly he's moving the goalpost. Big games are big games, Hugh. If I phone Mark McGee and say to him, I'm not accepting your Aberdeen Super Cup win over Hamburg, I think he'd have something to say about it.
I'll tell you how big the Super Cup is. Name the last 4 winners.
Well, let me just tell you right now. Barcelona.
Real Madrid.
Still a big game, Real Madrid, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just putting that one in there.
It is a good one, actually. I wonder if you can tell me the 2004 Champions League winners.
2000, I couldn't tell you any Champions League winners off a league bet.
It doesn't diminish the tournament, though.
Well, no, tell me who it was. It was Porto.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Porto.
See, when he was under pressure there.
When you're under pressure, and one of the reasons for that as well is, like, I noticed, just to go off a complete tangent, as we've got a little time here, there was a piece in the paper today, a couple of English managers saying that Mourinho is a much better manager than Guardiola. That was, that was the.
This is the argument.
Yeah, it's a great argument, isn't it? And I tend to think.
Based on what?
Just it's just subjective. People saying, I just think Mourinho's a better coach than Guardiola. It was Karanka, I think the Middlesbrough manager was one of the leaders off. And one of the things I will say about why I tend to go towards Mourinho a bit is because Mourinho has been hugely successful with small clubs. And of course, Guardiola, through no fault of his own, has never been with a small club. But if you say on Mourinho's CV is winning a European Cup with Porto, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
He won a UEFA Cup and the European Cup in successive years, which was fantastic.
Yeah. And then won a European Cup with Inter Milan at a time when Barcelona were thought to be invincible as well. So, I mean, just an interesting one. And that's why I think people of a certain age will look at Alex Ferguson and say, well, what a wonderful manager he was at Manchester United. And I think he was. I mean, no doubt about it. He was the greatest manager in English football for generations, perhaps ever. But people of a certain age will remember what he did to Aberdeen and how feared Aberdeen were by the Old Firm, which is... I can't believe that happened.
Absolutely. I mean, I can actually remember. I don't know how you managed to do this. He's a genius at it. I mean, he can. I'm just looking. I'm just looking here. He can take us off at a tangent when Dumbarton have gone 3-0 up on Wraith Rovers. I mean, that is. I mean, I'm looking at some scores. Yet again, Ruffy, Dumbarton just seemed to confound you. You never know what you're getting with them. I would not have predicted a 3-goal advantage for them over Wraith Rovers, especially when you consider Wraith Rovers' result against St Mirren.
Yeah, you would expect with John Hughes going there, they'd picked himself up, obviously, with the win. But again, people I think teams just have a problem getting down to Dumbarton. I don't know whether it's handling the situation of the stadium, the atmosphere, whether you get yourself lifted for it or whatever. But no, 3-0, I couldn't have seen that coming.
Interestingly enough, Bournemouth have gone ahead against West Ham and they missed 2 penalties in this game. So they're 2-1 up, but they missed 2 penalties. So.
And a goal in the biggest Scottish derby of the weekend. Albion Rovers 0, Airdrie 1.
Good to point that out as well. There's lots of people have been sending us messages. I'm going to read out a few of the messages. Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, and some of your tweets at Peter and Ruffy as well. I was going to compliment you, Hugh, because you're a genius at taking things from one topic to the next, which is absolutely magnificent. Well, listen, that's the joy of a 4-hour show, because at the end of the day, you can give so many different results. Josh King, I can tell you, scored that second goal. He's had some days, missed a penalty and scored a couple as well. And Stanton has scored for Dumbarton. Sam Stanton, who used to play for Hibs, just in case you're wondering, has got that goal for Dumbarton. They are 3-0 in that match. Yeah, what was your point? Was it talking about Jose Mourinho? Yeah, Aberdeen. The point you were going to make about Fergie, I remember, Ruffy. I wonder if you remember the situation where Aberdeen actually played against Liverpool. You're talking about being feared. Played against Liverpool and got absolutely battered at Pittodrie and at Anfield as well, with a Liverpool side that was unbelievable. But then they learned their lesson, and I think gave Ipswich Town a lesson.
An absolute tonking
in European football.
Albion Rovers have equalised, by the way. So it's one each in the big derby in Coatbridge.
Yep, we can hear it from here. The atmosphere cackling along there in that derby, and there'll be a sensational atmosphere in the Celtic Rangers one as well. And just looking here, Billy Dunn has sent us a message. He says, great show, guys. Thank you very much for that. We also read out people who say, dreadful show, hate the shirt, don't like the badge, and you're overweight. Nevertheless, but this one's a good one. Your comments about the financial situation at Rangers is spot on. They need to stop chasing Celtic or they will face going under again. Stop. Take stock of the situation, regroup, and then move forward. That's from Billy Dunn, who prediction is for Rogers' side to break yet another record. He's predicting Celtic 8, Rangers 1. So, I mean, Billy reminds me of the wonderful part of Glasgow is quite simply you can have the most articulate, sensible point, and it always finishes off with a left hook. So, 8-1 apart. I still think Billy does have a really good point.
So you don't have to spend any money, but you're going to lose 8-1 to your main rival. So I think that takes away that argument.
Can I ask you something? You're a person that I would consider in the Rangers camp, because you're a former player. I'm not necessarily for a minute suggesting that you are, one of those guys who falls into line and doesn't offer a balanced opinion. Yeah. Which part of the fence are you on? Do you think they need to throw money in it? Because that's what I would suggest. There are a greater number of Rangers old guard players, managers who suggest that's the only way out.
Yeah, I think I can understand why they're saying that, but the thing about it is you can only spend the money that you have. You have to have proper budgets, because you can't go down the line of overspending and putting the club into financial difficulty and financial threat, as happened before, if you're going to spend too much money. So the only way they can do it is if they get money in from people like Dave King and from other people, the ones who are the Three Bears, people who have invested before. If money comes in from them, and then they need to spend it sensibly, because I'll go back to the point, we've said it so often, that you're looking at a scenario. Well, Kilmarnock have gone 1-0 up at Ross County, by the way. That's a big goal for them up there. That's a good one. But what I was going to say was that if you take this scenario, and I'm pretty sure this went against Mark Warburton, was the fact that Celtic spend 500,000 on Dembele and Rangers spent 1.8 million on Garner. And it comes right down to the fact that you've got to be sensible at how you spend your money. If you can budget and spend that level of money and get in players of that sort of quality and who could rise a lot in value, and you can sell them on to make money, that's the way ahead. And Rangers will need some money in, without doubt, to spend. Maybe not in the same category as what Celtic can do just now, but they do need money in, but it has to be done in a sensible, financially structured basis.
Well, what kind of price are you putting on that?
In terms of what?
Million. How much million?
To spend?
No, to get yourself back in order. To get
yourselves back in order, maybe, I think right away you would have to look at key positions and finding people who are good value. You're not spending big money. I think they need certainly probably up to about 3 or 4 million anyway. In terms of spending,
3 or 4 million.
I think.
And what does that do, Gordon?
And what that does is it brings the level of quality up, that they can then compete a bit better, and it takes them beyond, say, a Hearts and Aberdeen who don't have that kind of money.
Yeah. So that just bridges that gap, and then does it take a 10 million to try and bite into the 33 points?
Well, it takes more than that, but what they should be doing is. What they're looking at is a manager who can bite into the 33 points and can improve the players that are already there, and then buy key players a good value to then challenge.
Well, that begs the question. The next question is quite simply, do you think that there is, and we talk about 100% here, are you talking about you, and again, I'm not dismissing this, because Brendan Rodgers managed to do it with some Celtic players.
Yes.
Do you think there's an 80% ability, and there are some Rangers players who you reckon can make themselves a regular in the starting 11 and can improve greatly?
Yes.
And if so, could you offer me a couple?
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because if it can be done, I've seen it happen so often. A manager comes in and a squad of players improves.
No, I'm not discounting that, but I'm saying to you, of the players that are there at the moment, do you think there's a couple areas you can see that potential? I mean, everybody looked and thought about Armstrong and Gary Mackay-Steven and said, wait a minute, this club's too big for them.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, Brendan Rodgers said, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to discard you.
Yes.
I'm going to work at it.
Exactly. That can happen. So it's hard to tell who. You wouldn't know the ones it's going to happen with.
Yeah.
Because the reason you don't know the ones you don't is like Armstrong. I think most people said Armstrong's never going to be a top-class Celtic player.
No.
I know that I said that Scott Brown was done in the summer. I said, get rid of him after the Rangers game.
I think the point that Peter's making is, who is the Armstrong in the Rangers?
That's what I'm saying, though. But it's hard to...
Who was the Armstrong in Celtic? You didn't say it was Armstrong, did you?
But we knew what Armstrong could do. I don't see anybody in that Rangers team that's going to kick on. I'm looking at Holt. I'm looking at the wee boy Mackay as a very, very good player. I can't see him getting that much better. I'm looking at Hill's not going to be there for long. Kenny Miller's not going to be there for long.
Well, maybe
the two lone players are going to get back to where they were.
Wilson could be better.
Yeah.
But the evidence of what you saw with Kieran.
Well, the evidence of what you see with Armstrong. Would you think he was going to be that good?
I think it's a slightly, and maybe I don't want to get picked up wrong here, but I think it's a slightly different argument, because I do not. How can I choose my words carefully here on this one without completely discarding any qualities they have? I don't think the potential of what Armstrong was signed on from Dundee United is relevant to a Kiernan or a Wilson. I think Wallace can't go up because Wallace has been consistent. I think
Wilson went for more money.
Wilson's a Liverpool player.
Exactly, I know Hugh.
He went to Liverpool. I mean, so there's something there. You might find, and I'm saying this not in any sense of arrogance or telling people, because I'm saying here, I'm the biggest dud here. I'm the guy that said in the summer, get rid of Brown.
Yeah.
And see when you're at it, clear out Forrest, maybe take Armstrong with him. This new manager needs to come in and clear out.
Yeah. Well, the other factor I would throw in is, like, you go last season before the English league starts and you look at all the teams and the money that's there to be spent. Leicester City win the league. Why? Because they get more out of that group of players than MD expected. That's what happened. And I'll give you an example in the European Championships a few years ago when it was in Portugal. Who was the top team in Greece?
Goncalves has scored for Hearts. They're 2-0 up.
Partick scored as well.
And Partick as well have managed to get a goal against Inverness, and suddenly this is starting to be the predictions that we were talking about. Ryan Edwards has scored the goal for Partick Thistle as well. So suddenly that's a big goal again for Thistle, and Inverness with a body blow.
Yeah, I always thought Europe was on the cards at the beginning of the season. The run is just sort of so many points if they stayed today.
If they get 20 points for winning today,
that's a bad result.
Still be five behind St Johnson. Yeah.
Hold on, you guys are going into what I call Mark Warburton mode there. If you get 20 and then the other team lose 7.
No, but I think a win for Thistle today would possibly just top 6. And I think if you asked Alan Archibald, his objective would be not to be in the bottom 6.
Yeah.
So I think if he gets in the top 6, it's a bonus.
I think top 6 is huge for Thistle.
Yeah, it would be
huge.
magnificent.
I mean, it just changes the whole financial model there. I mean, Alan's saying, his I think remit at the beginning of the season would be don't get relegated.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Gordon, just going back to that one point, because we will hear from the likes of Jason Holt, Moussa Dembele. The point I was going to make to you is I think the team, if the money is there, if any kind of money is there, I think that team will change dramatically when it gets to the summer, to the point where I think I would look and say Rangers need 7 or 8 new players, starting 11. Possibly,
but I can't see them bringing in that many, unless also you can actually find good players who are also out of contract and do it that way. That's a big key to it. That's your key, is maybe spend some money, but that money has to be made available not from the club, from how things are going just now, but has to be made available by the people who are running the club. They have got to put the money in.
Well, remember, Mark Robertson brought in 11, 14 players eventually, and then, you know, not a lot of them. Hearts are 3-0 up now. Jamie Walker has scored the goal, and that, I think, is done and dusted at Tynecastle. That'll be a huge relief for Ian Cathro with that third goal in there.
I think the Rangers supporters will be anxiously waiting to see where this manager identifies new players. Because, as you know, when a new manager comes in, he has a source of players that he goes for. Like Matt Warburn went for England because he had contacts down there. Other players who was in there. And the same with Brendan Rodgers. He went for Sinclair. We knew Dumbelly. So it'll be really interesting to see where this new Rangers guy is going to start.
But crucially, I think what you've got to do is not just identify players, because that's great, but you've got to improve players. And I think that for all the great signings that I mean, it's incredible now that you can look at Rodgers. He's not signed a dud. Even Toure filled. I mean, you know, who's not played much of late, filled a role at the time and was crucial at the time to get them through the Champions League qualifiers. Every other player's been a success, no doubt about it. But what's been brilliant at, Peter, is improving players. Every Celtic player you see there now is a better player. I think McGregor's I mean, without the Armstrongs and the Browns and the Forrests, who are the headline players that we talk about improving, again, I go down to, you know, Liam Heatherton. I think it's a smashing player now. I think Callum McGregor's looking better. There's just even Mackay Stephen, who's not made the incremental improvements that the other players have, is undoubtedly a better player.
I can tell you the goal looks as if it's been credited to Chris Doolan, which is if he indeed gets the credit for the goal, Ruffy, that's 10 for the season again. Chris Doolan, when you look back over his goals for Partick Thistle over the last 2 or 3 seasons, he's always hit double figures.
And the good thing about Alan Archibald is he's identified the games that he wants to play him in. He's not frightened to go into a game with a structure or a team formation and just put him on the bench, even though he is a top goal scorer. So obviously he's wisely put him in today, because obviously it's a home game. You would like to think Partick Thistle had most of the attacking, but he has got something, and against that certain level of team, that he has the ability to get goals.
14 goals last season and then 10 before that, and all of these goals have served Thistle well in either avoiding the dreaded playoff or relegation, Hugh.
Because it goes back to the point we were talking about earlier. I mean, Thistle played well all season. I mean, I've watched them intermittently all season, never been disappointed in the way they played, but sometimes just not getting the results. And the big problem is that crucial, the high tariff role up front, where, I mean, if you can, I mean, do you think Alan Archibald thinks like Aziz, for example, is likely to be the next Aguero? Of course he doesn't, but he's got to take players like that on, because he's got to say, do you know what, this guy's scattergun and poor finishing, but if I take him on, perhaps I can coach him to be a wee bit more calm and rational in the box and use his other things. So, but everyone's about goals, you know, and I'm pleased for Doolan. You know, he's very important to Thistle.
Absolutely. Well, Falkirk have got a goal at Somerset Park. They're leading by 1-0 there. Dumbarton are surprising is all 3-0 up in Wraith Rovers. And trust us to pick a game where Des McKeown just hasn't got a goal. Des.
Peter. Yes, no goals here, but I'll tell you what, the game's stretching. It's going from end to end. Dunfermline on the counter-attack as we speak. But Rory Loy was introduced by Jack Ross for young Josh Todd. Rory Loy's just had a chance, blocked just off the line, 2 or 3 yards off the line. Lewis Morgan was released, a fantastic bit of play, counter-attacking play from St Mirren. It was almost a 5v2 situation. It got fed wide to Lewis Morgan. Lack of composure. He tried to hit it first time straight into Sean Murdoch's arms. Michael Moffat's went close, and so has Callum Higginbotham from distance for Dunfermline. It's starting to heat up, a few tackles flying in. Hopefully we'll get a goal shortly. It's still nothing each at Paisley.
Thanks to Des, Ross County have equalised against Kilmarnock, and I would suggest, Ruffy, once you start running out of games, draws are annoying.
Yeah, but for Ross County, the free fall that they're on, they need every point possible, and certainly getting that one, might get them back on track, because last year all we spoke of was Boyce and Curran, and they've dried up a wee bit this year, but certainly you would think, getting that goal with home advantage is you're going to try and win that.
Both teams might settle for a point in that game afterwards if they find out that Inverness have lost, to be fair, because they've got the same points, Ross County. Well, Kilmarnock's one ahead, should I say. But there's nothing in it. But Motherwell are going okay at the moment as well. They're doing well, considering the fact that up at Pittodrie they're still drawing. You wouldn't expect they're going to get a draw in that game, but they've done well so far. Yeah,
Ross County, I'm just looking, again, I think one of you guys touched on it there. More often than not, you are talking about Curran and Boyce. Boyce, that's 15 for the season again for him, Ruffy. His strike rate for Ross County has been superb.
Yeah, he's been a big player for them. As I say, even last year as well, and he doesn't look like the normal centre forward. He doesn't have that big strapping look about him, but he's certainly in the right place at the right time.
He's a real threat. Absolutely, he's a real threat to teams. He's definitely, and teams know what I admire about him, Peter. Teams know about him, and they see him as the big danger. I know this for a fact. Most of the teams that are playing Ross County will always go, he's the one you got to stop, Boyce. You know what I mean? And yet they find it very hard to stop him. That you need a lot of admiration when you're actually scoring goals when the opposition are doing their most to stop you.
Yeah, do you know what I love about you, Gordon? See, when you say I know this for a fact, it's, by the way, shut up and don't contest it with me. There's a manager who used to say, before he answered any question, he went, no, honestly. And I thought to myself, let's write this down.
What we're saying, Peter, is I've got this from good sources.
No, absolutely, right? I know, but when you say it, I always think, okay, Gordon's just giving us a slap here.
If you're in that bottom six, you have to have somebody to go to. We've all played at whatever level in bad teams, right? And when we play in a bad team, we always look up front and say, well, maybe Jimmy or Brian or somebody will get us out of jail today.
Yeah.
And if you look at the bottom six, or what could be the bottom six, because we know Partick are not in the bottom six at the moment, but what could be, they've got Doolan, right? And then you go to Ross County and say, they've got Boyce. It's when you start going to sorts of things like Hamilton. Who have they got?
Yeah.
And even like Billy Mackay at Cali is just not doing it. He would be their talisman, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
But he's not quite doing it at the moment.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make. It's not set in stone, I'm sure you'll accept, because I looked at David Neary scoring the goals to give us the lead, and I thought to myself, I'm looking at the players around and I'm thinking,
well, there's no way.
There's Ruffy. He'll keep us in front here. Neary's goal will be significant. Ruffy will keep us in front.
And didn't he?
It still went downhill.
I turned off after that. You're not telling me that. What happened?
We just annoyed them.
It's a great line, wasn't it, from Graham Souness? I think we annoyed the Brazilians. Fantastic. Okay, we will hear from also Ali McCoist, Andy Walker, Barry Ferguson and Bobby Petter ahead of the game. You can give us your view as well at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy if you want to give us your opinion on tomorrow's derby. Who do you think is going to win, Celtic or Rangers? Billy Dunn has suggested 8-1. Even Macca's managed to get himself into that line of being I think a punter, suggesting it could be a heavy hammering. First goal could be so significant. Who do you think is going to win? Who's going to score the goals? Give us your thoughts on that. This afternoon we were in short supply of goals, only Aberdeen, Motherwell. And again, I don't know about you, Hugh, but while they've received, and rightly, a lot of plaudits, sometimes I think they huff and puff Aberdeen. They're still missing for me that little bit of quality to supplement Johnny Hayes.
Yeah. Just before we go in, that's a very important goal down at Somerset Park. Falkirk have gone 2-0 up in there, so that makes happenings in Paisley even more important. But yeah, I think Aberdeen have been frustrating to me for a couple of seasons. I always think when they're in positions to sort of capitalise on how the season's going, they seem to kind of stutter. I'm not too surprised. As I said at the beginning of the game, I tipped this as a 1-0 Aberdeen because I thought Motherwell
but
would
that's
come
what they've been doing, and I think that's the Derek would be the first person to tell you. Listen, good teams 1-0 will do, because last year they couldn't get the one goal. I mean, I'm looking at them, Gordon, and I'm saying to myself, well, I can't be too critical of them. It's 6 wins out of 7 games.
I know, but they did it so often. Ayr United have got to go back very quickly, so it's having Falkirk having gone 2-0 up, it's back to 1 goal, 2-1 for Falkirk against Ayr United. I think you're right. There was so many games last year when they had a great opportunity to put Celtic under pressure and failed to take that opportunity, and you just wondered. I mean, the big question was, people were wondering about their bottle, really, whether they could handle the big games, and that was the kind of talk, was that they've not got the players that can deal with that, and that's a challenging team can deal with that. But today, I mean, I thought they would win. It would be a tight game as well. I didn't think it would be anything like the last game up there, but they've still got 20 minutes to get a goal back, and as you say, Peter, they would just be delighted to just accept a 1-0 lead, a 1-0 win. Would do Aberdeen.
Yeah, and they've got Hayes, they've got they've got Rooney, they've got McGinn, they've got McLean, they've got they've got options there that can come in and score goals. As I say, I wouldn't be surprised if if it ended up 1-0. If they just got that one goal.
Okay, Andrew Jackson scored for Brecon. They're 1 goal up at Peterhead at the minute. As the goals come in, we will really keep you up to date with them. But Nathan Austin was the man to score that goal for Falkirk. So it's been a good day for Austin. 2-0 up against Ayr. And then Ayr have got one back through Gary Harkins. So Gary's one of those players, Ruffy. We are huge fans. I like a midfielder with not a lot of pace, but great ability. That's my type of midfield.
It just shows you when you're that kind of player and you're not getting results, and you end up sitting on the bench because the manager needs workers, he needs people to fight. But no, he's given them a lifeline there, and certainly, as you said there, he can come up with that something special.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much to a lot of people talking. And thanks to Stephen, who is saying to us, I'm just watching you on Peter and Ruffy, and you're surprisingly sensible. That's Twitter from Stephen McGowan. So that kind of sums it up.
Surprisingly sensible.
Yeah, absolutely. And lots of people giving us messages, giving us their opinion on who they think is going to win Celtic against Rangers. Who do you think is going to start the game? Somebody suggested to me the other day there as well that maybe Brendan Rodgers might look at 2 strikers and throw in Lee Griffiths. Ruffy, I think he'll stick to his tried and tested.
Yeah, well, I think all the supporters would love something like that to happen. 2 very good strikers on the park, but as we all know, it's all about formations now. It's all about sticking to the success you've got, and his success is the 2 sitting midfield players, the 3, and then the striker up front.
I think you're right, because the other 3 has got Armstrong, Beaton and Brown all have to be central, really, to an extent, and that means he's got the 2 wide players. Otherwise, you've got to play a 4-4-2. So I don't think there's any way that Griffiths will start. I think he always sees him as an option as well to bring on Peter if you need a goal, which he's always a threat, isn't he?
But Brendan's been pretty consistent all season. But I mean, he played. I think it was the one game against Rangers. I think it was a cup semi-final, League Cup semi-final. They played Griffiths and Dembele together. Brendan's view then was that it didn't quite work, that he would have to change his system to accommodate both of them, and he isn't in the business of changing systems.
What about the scoreline coming in League Two? It could be dramatic at the bottom end, Gordon, because you're looking here at Cowdenbeath 2-0 up at Berwick Rangers, and suddenly Edinburgh City are behind. That could become really interesting at the bottom end. 3-0 now to Cowdenbeath. Gary Locke could be, a miracle worker there.
That's a tremendous start for him, isn't it? To go to a team sitting bottom of the league, and I mean, they're good points. They're 7 points behind Edinburgh. Edinburgh had pushed right up. It's quite funny. Their season's turned around again, because they weren't in a good run after having a terrible start this season. They moved themselves up. They were up. I think they were up about 6th or 7th place, and now they're slid back down.
Do you know what it brings the absolute haunting, grim reaper spectre of? The team that has jumped out the plane without a parachute there are Clyde. And wouldn't it be incredible? I mean, they're plummeting down there.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be incredible if they finished bottom.
Well, the
with
structure...
with the history that they've got for their actual presence in the Scottish top divisions to be under threat.
Yeah, and of course the whole complexity of the ground as well. I think that would be catastrophic. You're right, Hugh, if that suddenly got to a situation where their involvement in the professional league was in question. You just wonder about the long-term view there. But it's interesting in that division. We're going to keep you right up to date with it as well. It's been a good day, I think. If you're a Hearts fan, I think if you're Ian Cathro, what you're doing, Ruffy, at this point, if you're Ian Cathro, is you're walking out to the edge of the technical area every minute and doing this and then this and then just, you're offering every movement you can as if you're some kind of visionary.
Maybe
just to take the
No, he's going like that. He's going like that.
He hasn't found that one.
This is what we're doing. It's up there. I'm standing up in a wee box.
And I'm not going to knock him his moment of enjoyment, because he's got to have it, because I've always maintained you've got to take a long-term view, let the lad find his way, let him build his team, and then let's see what they can do when he's got the players that he would like in.
Yeah, and obviously I would like to think he's want to push up that table. I would like to think that his ambitions would be to catch Rangers, in the light of Rangers against Celtic tomorrow. And I think that's what supporters will want as well. And I keep saying, I remember Anne Budge saying, we want progress year on year, and where they're sitting just now isn't progress, so they're going to have to really, push and get some points.
Well, this will take the pressure off them for a little while, getting a good win, because Hamilton are not an easy team to play against. I mean, they're difficult opponents. They won their last game, didn't they, against Aberdeen? So you have to look at it and think, this would be a good result for Hearts, a good win, and especially because it's also at Tynecastle when you consider it, because Hearts in their last 3 games, like 2 defeats and a draw. But there's a good goal for Edinburgh City. They've scored against top of the league, Forfar, to make it 1 each. So that's a good goal for them.
See how this Saturday afternoon it seems to swing one way, then the other. And again, we like to read out sensible points, some not so sensible. Some points we like to read out and just let you deduce for yourself whether there's any kind of credibility in it. Declan McWilliams has sent us a message, Gordon. He reckons it's going to be Celtic 10, Rangers 0. And I think that's a lesson for us all, not to drink red wine before 6 o'clock at night.
That's a converted try and a penalty.
That's exactly what it is. I cannot, for the life of me, it's one of those games, we're building up that much, it's going to end up 0-0.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the thing about it is, you'd expect Celtic are going to win, they're the favourites and all that sort of thing, but it's just getting out of hand. I mean, if there's that big a gulf, if it's a 10-0 win, then, that would destroy our football to a degree. When you think if there's,
but
if there's that big a gap.
I mean, Celtic didn't. I mean, when Hamilton went to Celtic or any other team or Ross, nobody's tipping that for 10-0. So
No.
I mean, it's just. I think there's a bit of cadoology going on here. Very much. Just straying briefly outside Scotland, only for a second, Peter. There's an interesting score down in the Championship. Newcastle getting gubbed by Fulham at home, 3-0.
Yeah, that was amazing. Because Brighton caught them last night.
Brighton caught them last night, and that's if you're talking about big results.
Yeah.
As vis-a-vis money.
Yes.
They've got to go up.
Absolutely. I mean, Newcastle were on a good run too, and that's amazing that they're losing 3-0 at home. I can imagine the crowd's reaction to that. They won't be able to believe it.
Yep, absolutely. I don't think they'll be singing Rafa Benitez's name right now, Rafi, if that all goes pear-shaped, because each season out of that division, some clubs have actually just dropped like a lead weight, trying to spend to get back out of that division. I think it's a very tough division. In fact, I think, if my memory serves me correct, it's not only the 5th wealthiest in Europe, certainly considered one of the most difficult out with the top 4 countries.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, the money that's available for teams getting promoted is incredible too. And it's interesting because, even the playoff game, it was quite interesting when I learned that in the playoff at Wembley, the team who loses gets all the money from that game.
Does it a consolation prize?
You get your TV money, you get all the gate money, everything goes to the team that loses.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because other
teams get tens of millions.
Teams get millions out of it, so that's their reward. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yep, it's getting really tight at the top of the Championship. Newcastle being pushed by Brighton, Huddersfield, Leeds United. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's sentimentality on Leeds. I'd love to see them back in the top flight. That comes into the category of teams that have fallen like a lead balloon, spending way out of the budget.
Well, that's the team we talked to earlier about. You know, the passing of the great Tommy Gemmell. I can remember that Leeds team of the late 60s, early 70s. Celtic beat home and away in 1970. You know, that marvellous team they had, probably of their generation. They actually underachieved. They probably should have won a lot more than they did, but they did not bad.
Yeah.
But I think Leeds should be in that top division. By the way, Airdrie have gone ahead in the Super Classico in Coatbridge, 3-2.
Yep. Ian Russell has scored the goal. We've had Ian on as a guest. I was just trying to think there, Ruffy. I don't want to put you under any pressure, so I'm going to take a bit of it off, and you can add them in as you want. Okay. He was talking about that great Leeds side. I'm going to say, well, David Harvey would be there. I don't think he played in the game against Celtic. I think it was Sprake.
Harvey was actually Harvey came on in Hampden because I think Gary Sprake went off injured.
Rainey, Cooper, Charlton, and Norman Hunter. Bremner, Giles, Eddie Gray, Lorimer, and then you could have had Jones and Clark. There you are.
And then on the bench, you would have the greatest sort of utility player that could play anywhere, Paul Madeley.
There's another. They were a great team, and very rare, and I know you're not going to believe this, but their manager used to actually, to relax them prior to games, take them for a game of bingo. Don Reevy. So Hull 2, Swansea 0. Now that's a big scoreline, because suddenly Swansea were on a wee bit of a run there with Paul Clement.
But Hull have been much improved. It's an interesting thing, like when Silva comes in as manager of Hull, everybody, all the pundits shout out, "Oh, why are they selling? You know, the sacking Mike Phelan. They didn't give him a chance. This guy's coming in. He doesn't know anything. He's come from Olympiacos. What does he know about English football? Blah blah blah." If you look at his results, now Hull have got real hope of getting out that.
It's just as we were saying earlier, that a man can improve a certain group of players, and you get different results. By a different manager. We've seen it so often in the past. It's like a chemical reaction between a manager and a group of players. Even though a manager can sometimes be very, very good at his job and he leaves one club, I'll give you a good example. Davy Moyes does a great job at Everton, leaves there, and it doesn't work at Man United. Not because he's a bad manager. The chemical reaction between him and that group of players did not work.
And Silva coming to Hull City as well, you would say, if somebody said to the Hull City fans, right, we're going to sack Phelan, we're going to get a manager in from Olympiacos, and we're going to sell Snodgrass. Yeah. What do you think their prospects are going to be? And he could get them out of there.
Yeah, you think so?
I think he could. I always think in the English division, you've got to see who are the three worst teams in the division. I think Sunderland, talking about Davy Moyes, will go down. I think there's still capability for a team to plummet. Bournemouth are doing well today, but there's still possibilities for that. It's going to be tight at the bottom, but I think Hull might just squeak out of that.
Yeah, they're 4 points, I think, behind Sam's Crystal Palace as well.
So at the moment,
and Big Sam, slowly but surely starting to work some magic again, Ruffy.
Yeah, it's the magic against the teams that he should be creating, man. He's already went on record and saying, look, we're not going to beat the top six. Let's, when we play the teams down where we are, and they're the wins, and that's what he's been doing. He's been getting the wins against these teams.
Yeah, Bournemouth 2, West Ham 2, IU getting the equaliser there. That's a humdinger of a game. It's one of those ones where they'll have to try and cram it into the small time allocation that they get for highlights packages these days. And just my imagination of, did you used to watch, whether it was Scott Sports Scene or Match of the Day down south, there used to be more time allocated to games. Am I missing the point here?
There used to be at one time years ago, there was only one game
on. Yeah. Sometimes two.
Highlights was one game. They didn't show all the games in those days, one game.
That's one it's really astonishing, like you'll have a different era, but I always remember one of the great days of my life when I walked into the Borestone bar. The other bars were available in Stirling, and I looked up at the television, And I said, Everton have gone 3-0 away. And I said, what's that on the telly? And the guy says, it's Barcelona v Real Madrid. And I went, what, like a recording? Have they got a Spanish television? But no, it's live. And I went, next morning I was in at Curry's before it opened, chapping the door. Can I have one of these, please? And now we take it so much for granted. But the idea of watching, you know, I mean, we just take it for granted that we can watch anything we want.
I'll tell you the bad news, and I don't want to put all three of you on a downer, but it's England 20, Scotland 7 in the rugby. It's just not going according to plan, Ruffy.
Well, it depends whether you've taken the handicap bet or not.
Was it 1983 the last time Scotland won against England?
Did you see actually? You know, from I think the word we're looking for is treachery. That's the words we're looking for, Gordon.
Treachery.
For a man who is actually taking a spread bet on Scotland to lose.
Win? No, to win.
No, to win?
No, I took Scotland with plus 13 points. So we're hanging on with.
Yes, we're looking for a try or a conversion.
Peter, we better not say at the very start of the programme, after 1 minute, we said Livingston were 1-0 up and the goal was disallowed, and now top of the league, Livingston have lost their goal with 5 minutes ago. Now it might still be cancelled, we don't know, but East Fife are leading. That's a major goal too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in that division though it doesn't really matter. I think they're just going to win. It's just when they're going to get
it's just when. I think they're the best team, obviously the best team in the division, obviously heading up.
And they've come back from a situation where there's been lunacy in the boardroom, you know, all that. You know,
long term as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been
long term.
When you thought to yourself, I actually thought at one point you wondered whether they were ever going to continue as a club. You know, they were hanging on the edge of the cliff, but seems to be a bit of stability now. Good young players,
and with the old head as well.
David Hopkins
as the manager, Liam Buchanan as the leading goal scorer. And
did you ever get that chat with him?
I'm going to get that chat with him. I'm not quite yet, but I'll definitely will, because I think he's a hugely interesting character and is also so important to that team. But that team, I mean, again, when we're wandering down memory lanes for curries and other things for broadcast satellite, the big dishes and that. I can remember in Livingston we're not only Meadowbank Thistle, but we're Ferranti Thistle. I think that's the. So they didn't have quite the base. You know, when things go wrong, you look to your fans. They didn't have that, so it's doubly good that they've come back.
That's why you're on the programme, and that's why we love you on a Saturday on the programme. What was Stanley Matthews like to you? Was he as good as everybody?
Stanley was going back to him. It was a great. That was Bob. The great Bob Crampsey's line when you're arguing about footballers, and people used to say, you know, is Messi better than Ronaldo or Maradona and all that, and he would always go back. He says he used to argue about Matthews and Mortensen, who was the better player of the two, and he says once it gets to that level, he says it's merely a matter of opinion.
Yes,
and it is, you know, you can't prove it definitively. Alaba gone 2-1 up against Stenhousemuir, Peter.
Yeah, if you could just bear that in mind, Gordon, what, you know, Ernest Hemingway is saying to you there, when you get to the levels of Ronaldo, Messi and Pele, it's just fine lines.
Yes,
it's fine lines.
Absolutely.
It's fine lines.
I've always said there's opinion and there's qualified opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you that as well. Because there's some really crazy opinion out there, you know.
And just getting back on that, because I cannot allow you to have the last word on that. Qualified opinion. I hope you're not making just a blanket over all footballers who've played the game.
No,
because I would refer you to Macca's prediction for the Celtic Rangers game.
We better wait, because if Celtic win 8-0, we're going to have to say that man knows his stuff.
Listen, to be honest with you, I could not bear seeing him with that supercilious face saying "I told you so." It would. Listen, I've yet to see. Games can turn. I mean, there's 6-2. You mentioned the 5-1. I think Torrey Andre Flo got a couple of goals in that game at Ibrox. The much maligned Torrey Andre Flo. I think in the first season, I might be wrong, and you might correct me on this, and I'm going to check it, Hugh. But I think Torrey Andre Flo might have got 20 goals.
He did. I'll tell you, you're absolutely right, Peter. And what happened was that he was judged on his fee as opposed to what he was doing. If he'd been brought in a free transfer, they'd have said he was a big success, but they paid £12 million, and you get judged solely on that, because that was an outrageous sum of money for a player coming to Scottish football, £12 million. So you're right when you said it. He got Edinburgh City
Well,
against...
that's the result of the day. Edinburgh City are 2-1 up against Forfar.
Top of the league Forfar.
If you're talking about, if we're talking about earlier, if we're predicting matches, why there's the bookmakers still make a return, that's the one. I mean, that's a sensational result for Edinburgh City.
They were down 1-0, weren't they?
Yep,
absolutely. But it's still a bit to go, minutes, but still there. Things can happen, but that could be huge, especially at the bottom end for them, where we mentioned not so long ago it's very, very tight there. So we'll look at that division, we'll look at the table and give you an overview of it very shortly. We're also going to, in the final hour of the programme, we will bring you what can only be considered quite a few packages looking ahead to the big game. It's the one everyone's talking about, Celtic and Rangers. It's dominated most of our chat this afternoon as well, and column inches, and lots of them have been dedicated to it, and that's what we need in Scottish football. That's why I love the build-up to Hibs Hearts games and the Cup games. They were rightly given as much coverage as they possibly could get, and I like Dundee clubs doing that, and you need strong top 5 or 6 clubs so that we can get that back into our game.
Definitely. There was a good point you were making earlier on as well. I was going to come in at the fact is, there's Kilmarnock have scored again at Ross County. Kilmarnock have gone 2-1 up. That could be a big result for Killie against Ross County. Killie's a point ahead, so I would go 4. But you were talking about teams, like you mentioned Leeds United, Peter, dropping down, and a big club like that not being where they were. And I was looking at it, I'm thinking, from my time down in England, I was looking through all the clubs, and it was like Hearts are 4-0 up now. But you're looking at Leeds United, you take for example, but you're also looking at Ipswich Town, Nottingham Forest, Norwich, Queen's Park Rangers, even Sheffield Wednesday, teams like that who were all right up there at the top, and they've all fallen down. Birmingham City to an extent as well. Yeah, they were.
When I was the players they had.
When I went down to England, they were also.
Bob Latchford.
Yeah.
Trevor Francis.
Yeah.
Definitely. Kenny Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Kenny Burns on the show, Ruffy. That was a day and a half, wasn't it?
He went from a striker, they turned him into centre half, Nottingham Forest.
I mean, absolutely incredible. It's funny you mentioning that. I'd love to. We should do a question one day where we get people to actually write in with just give us an email or indeed a tweet on players that started out in one position and then became a really good player in another position that a manager had spotted.
Well, there's 2 right away. I would say to you, Kenny Burns and Willie Miller. Willie Miller was a striker when he signed for Aberdeen. As a kid, I played against him in kids football, and he was a front man. He went to, I think it was Peterhead on loan as a striker as well, and then came back and they made him a defender.
Franz Beckenbauer was a midfield player, a central midfield player, and then almost invented the libero role as a free man in defence. I mean, there's Chris Sutton, for example. It's goals galores in the Buckfastio. It's 3 each at Clifton Hill. They'll be dancing in the streets of Clifton tonight.
Yeah, you should have seen Ruffy's face there. and to be perfectly honest with you, the people in that area drink lots of drinks. There are many drinks available to every one of us.
Cheeky Moselle of times.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good one.
It took me right off.
Chris Sutton changed position. He was a centre half, for example.
Listen, we're getting close. 3-3 Albion Rovers, as you mentioned there, against the Airdrieonians. And it looks as if Aberdeen have snatched it right at the end.
1-0, is it? Yeah.
Would you believe it? I mean, that would be absolutely incredible. We'll try and bring you the details of that shortly. Let's go to New St Mirren Park, because I think it's full time there now. St Mirren, Dunfermline, Des McKeown.
Yes, it's finished at the Paisley 2021 Stadium. St Mirren 0, Dunfermline Athletic 0. We got no goals, we got plenty of action on the pitch, but most of it was confined to long-range efforts from both Paul McMullen in the second half and indeed Rory Loy, Stevie Mallon and indeed Lewis Morgan for St Mirren. It's a point for St Mirren as they look to try and escape getting off of bottom position within the Championship. But Jack Ross will look at this game and see it as a game where he could have picked up all 3 points. In fairness, they probably had the best of the options, best of the action throughout the 90 minutes. But Dunfermline, they stuck it out. With Nathan Wedderburn in the middle of the park, Daniel Wedderburn in the middle of the park, they had a solid base where they defended from and tried to catch St Mirren on the counter-attack. No goals at Paisley, 1 point apiece. St Mirren's fight to stay in the Championship continues Wednesday night here against Dundee United.
Okay, thanks to Des. We'll hear more from Des. He'll be back with us with hopefully maybe the odd word from the managers and a significant player or two. Albion Rovers 3, Airdrie 4. Talk about late goals. Niall McGinn has scored for Aberdeen, as we told you right at the death. If you're going to score the winning goal, it's better to get it in the 94th minute, Alfie, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we spoke about it at the beginning. Two of the worst times to lose a goal was obviously there in the beginning of the second half, but certainly, you know, that sometimes you get a rub of the green when you're up there, and obviously Motherwell will be gutted, and it's a long journey back.
We're saying that Aberdeen would just be delighted to get a 1-0 win today. That's what's saying. You thought it would be 1-0, I thought it would be a narrow victory, but they'll be delighted. I think that's the 3 points in the bag, and they'll know full well. Both Hearts and Aberdeen will be very aware that Rangers, a very little chance of picking up the points tomorrow. Celtic are favourites for the game, so they'll both be happy with what's happened today.
I've got to get your thoughts, Ruffy. Alan Archibald will be walking towards the tunnel after Gary Warren's late equaliser for Inverness.
Yeah, I thought in the past couple of months that old chestnut had been put into bed, you know, losing goals and not being able to see out games. But again, it's come back to haunt them. It's not been so bad this year, but certainly when you're winning 1-0 and a minute to go, you would think you would have the experience in the side to see out a game. But again, it's another 2 points dropped.
Many times they lose late goals. We've sat here so often, haven't we? And next thing you know, a party have just lost a goal late on. They do it a lot. But I think Falkirk it was a 2-1 lead, but they've now gone 3-1 up. Must be a very late goal, so it's a good win for Falkirk today.
Yep, and of course that crucial goal for Kilmarnock as well. That's a good win, Gordon Smith, for your old side, Chris Boyd.
Definitely. I mean, Boyd's been crucial for Kilmarnock over the years, and he's been doing it again of late. He's been getting goals again. He missed a penalty last week when he lost to Motherwell right enough, but he scored I think it was his 200th goal for league. But so tremendous. Yeah, and I have to say, Craig Sibbald scored that Falkirk goal. What about that result from Dumbarton? 4-0 Wraith Rovers. That is that's an absolute hammering.
Yeah, and that really is a hugely important result for Dumbarton. That gives them more breathing space down at that bottom. It only takes them a further 2 points away from St Mirren. Takes them a further 2 points away from 3 points.
It takes them above Wraith. It takes them above Wraith.
Brings Wraith into it. That's a huge result for them today.
Big mistake, John Hughes letting Ryan Stevenson go.
Yeah.
Played the day.
Only you could get that insight. Only you could get that insight, Ruffy. Okay, we'll be going to Firhill very shortly to speak to Kevin Harper as well. I think the man of the moment is undoubtedly Niall McGinn, scoring that late winner up at Pittodrie. That'll be gut-wrenching for Stephen Robinson and the Motherwell support who made the journey. We're going to look at that big game in Glasgow taking place tomorrow night next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. It's late drama in the Premiership. Niall McGinn seals the win for the Dons with that late goal up at Pittodrie against Motherwell. It was Aberdeen 1, Motherwell 0. Let's go to Firhill. Late drama there as well. Partick Thistle, Inverness Cali Thistle. Kevin Harper.
Finished here, Peter. Partick Thistle 1, Inverness 1. And late drama again. The final kick of the ball. Well, header, should I say. Warren puts it in the bottom corner to make it Partick 1, Inverness 1. But the story of the game was Partick Thistle absolutely dominated. First half, their final ball let them down the whole game. Crossings hitting the first man. But second half, Inverness started the better. But against the run of play, Partick scored the goal. It was a lovely ball on the right-hand side, just in between the goalkeeper and the defence, across the 6-yard box from Ryan Edwards, who was superb today. And there he was. Chris Doolan scored his 99th goal for Partick Thistle, 6 yards out, directing it into the keeper's bottom right-hand corner. And then from then on, Thistle dominated without really having a chance. And then the late drama came. Greg Tansey got the ball on the right-hand side and floated across, just an aimless cross, and up goes Warren at the back post. I get up above Dumbuye and heads it down in the bottom keeper's right-hand corner to make it 1-1. And then didn't even have time to kick off again, Peter. Here at Partick Thistle, it was Thistle 1, Inverness Cali 1.
That's going to be painful for Alan Archibald there. Thanks to Kevin Harper for bringing us the details of that right at the death. OK, let's bring you the full-time scores in the Premiership. First of all, the full-time scores from the Premiership. It was Aberdeen 1, Motherwell 0, Hearts 4, Hamilton Accies 0, Partick Thistle 1, Inverness Cali Thistle 1, Ross County 1, Kilmarnock 2, St Johnstone 2, Dundee 0. In the Championship, Ayr United 1, Falkirk 4, Dumbarton 4, Wraith Rovers 0, and St Mirren 0, Dunfermline 0. Morton Queen of the South kicks off at 5:15. League 1, Albion Rovers 3, Airdrieonians 4, Alloa 2, Stenhousemuir 1, Livingston 0, East Fife 1, Peterhead 0, Brecon City 1, Stranraer 1, Queen's Park 1. League 2, Annan Athletic 1, Elgin City 0, Arbroath 1, Clyde 0, Berwick Rangers 1, Cowdenbeath 3, Forfar 1, Edinburgh City 2, Montrose 1, Stirling Albion 3. In the Premier League in England, Bournemouth 3, West Ham 2, Everton 3, West Bromwich Albion 0, Hull City 2, Swansea 1. And in the FA Cup 6th round, the 12:15 kick-off, it finished Middlesbrough 0, Manchester City 2. Arsenal against Lincoln City, that match kicking off at 5:30. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Hugh MacDonald of the Daily Mail are with me. Peter Martin. Do join us after the break. We're going to hear from the Celtic striker Moussa Dembele, Jason Holtz, more from Brendan Rodgers and Graham Murty. We'll also get the opinions of these guys for Celtic versus Rangers. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. It was a great win for Heart of Midlothian at Tynecastle. 4-0 against Hamilton Accies, Ruffy.
Yes, again, you know, unfortunately Hamilton Accies defending lets them down badly, and when they do lose goals, they lose them heavily, and that's why I think they're candidates for getting relegated. Hughes already touched on they don't have a striker who's going to dig them out a hole, and they're losing goals freely, so I think it's bye-bye Hamilton. I think they've done fantastically well over the last 2 or 3 years to keep in the top league, but I think this year is just one too many.
So it's a real battle at the bottom now, Peter. There's 4 points separating the bottom 4 teams. The other ones are just starting to maybe pick up a few more points, like Kilmarnock and Dundee and Partick, but the other 4 that are down there, say 27 points Ross County, 27 Motherwell, 24 Hamilton and 23 now Inverness. I know it's not a win. Inverness cannot seem to win games. If they get a result, it usually is a draw at the moment. But the thing is, they're still not out of it yet. They're still very much in with a chance of catching the teams above them.
Yeah, and I think the pain will be felt more so up at Pittodrie, where Motherwell will be heading down from Aberdeen thinking it could have been a point. Every point is a prisoner these days at the bottom end. But Niall McGinn pops up there and shows the consistency from Aberdeen.
Yeah, and you know, without blowing our own trumpets, we kind of expected that Aberdeen would win and win narrowly. I think Ruffy had backed Aberdeen with a 30 goal difference. What was he saying at the beginning? 3-0, 4-0,
Yeah, did you
5,
suggest
6,
3 and 4?
7,
no,
8?
No, I don't think I did.
Was it 10? Was it a Macca?
7-2 wouldn't happen again, but I would expect them to win, but not by a late goal.
But I think it's just been ground down, and I think when they sit back down and say this is not a disaster, losing at Aberdeen, losing at Pittodrie is not a disaster, but I suppose if you're that close, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, and a word, I think, I don't want to labour the point, but I think there's got to be a word for Ian Cathro, because he will enjoy a night out. I think he'll actually go out in Edinburgh tonight, Gordon, and enjoy himself.
It might actually be a good interview. I'd like to hear his interview for tomorrow to see what he says, because he's got to find a difference here, because he's not been put under pressure. He will be able to talk positively about it. I mean, he is positive most of the time he does talk. As I say, sometimes his interview doesn't seem to fit in with what the question was, you know, his answer. But that is a good win for him, no doubt. Because Hamilton, as I say, they're not a team. I mean, Rangers beat them comfortably last week, and they fell apart, man sent off, and all that sort of thing. Right, that was a hammering. But in the league so far, they've not been getting beat as easily as that, and that's a good win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Ruffy, what we've got to try and do in the break is come up with a word which is better than magnificent, and then describe that as Hearts win, because that ends a 5-game winless streak.
Yes, but you think, I know Gordon's talked up Hamilton there, but you would like to think Hearts at home against Hamilton, it would be a win, but maybe not that convincing.
Well, in the kind of form Hearts have been in, though, it wasn't as easy to predict that and expect it, Ruffy. You know what I mean? Hearts have not been exactly doing that well, but you know, all of a sudden a 4-0 win's a comfortable
Absolutely.
victory.
That's a huge result for him. That's he'll be so pleased in that, and I bet you see in the press conference as well, it doesn't matter what he says in the press conference, nobody's going to be dissecting it, Peter. 3 points.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
It.
It's he could go through and repeat when the seagulls follow the sardines in the ship. Who cares what he says? He's got to win. That's all the Hearts fans care about. After this quick break, Celtic Rangers next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. It's been a good afternoon if you're a Hearts fan, because Ian Cathro's managed to get his 5th win since he had taken over the hot seat from Robbie Neilson. So 5 wins out of 16 games now, but it was an emphatic one, 4-0 against Hamilton Accies. It was the late show up at Pittodrie. Niall McGinn getting the winner for the Dons in a 1-0 win over Motherwell. And Gary Warren snatched a point for Inverness right at the death with a header after Thistle had taken the lead. It finished 1-1, and that will be an agonising scoreline for Alan Archibald. And as ever, Chris Boyd has written his name into the Premier League history books with the goals that he scored, and he got a crucial one today late on to seal the points for Kilmarnock up at Dingwall against Ross County. So lots to talk about in the programme. At Peter and Ruffy on Twitter if you want to give us your thoughts on your team today, and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. We will be looking at Celtic Rangers, the build up here to what is going to be a fantastic game, we hope, at 12 o'clock tomorrow. The fans will be flocking to the east end of Glasgow for Celtic against Rangers. We'll also look at the probable lineups. Of course, this next man you're about to hear from could play a major part in it. He scored 5 goals in 3 games against Rangers. He is a real goal threat. His name is Moussa Dembele, and the French striker is really looking forward to this one. Of course, no pressure on him, because I think the Celtic fans feel as if he's proved himself already.
I'm looking forward to the Rangers game, like I've been doing for any other game this season. You know, it's another game of football, and you have to make sure that we prepare as any other game and be ready, and there's no extra pressure to put on yourself, and it's just a game of football. It's all about opportunities. You know, I try to take mine when the gaffer give me a chance to play, and yeah, since that I try to give 100% in training and in games, and to stay on the pitch.
32 goals. How highly do you rate him, Hugh McDonald?
I rate him as a top class prospect who could do anything. He could be anything. He could go to the very, very top of the game. I think already he's proved himself an English Premiership player. I think you'll see tomorrow there's rumours of PSG and others coming to watch him tomorrow, and why not? Sometimes we can talk our game down here. Other times we can be, as we hear some of the tweets, sort of kind of overly emotional about results, shall we say. But the fact of the matter is, this kid has scored in the Champions League. He's been voted the best under-21 player for France, who are a major nation. So the guy's got everything at his feet and at his head. I think the bigger the game this kid plays in, which is a great habit to have, the better he is. He seems to, his record against Rangers doesn't bear repeating, but in the Champions League as well, particularly against Manchester City at Celtic Park, he was almost unplayable that night. So, short answer, anything he wants to be.
Yeah, of course, I think you summed it up with one word in that answer there, prospect, Gordon, but the prospects look very good if he moves on. I mean, I think the Celtic fans are hoping he stays for another season. I think because of the scouts that are now watching, especially tomorrow as well, you know, Real Madrid mentioned, PSG, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City.
Yeah, these teams are all mentioned. I mean, and it's been talked about what's his value, and people have disputed his value. I think Ali McCoy even said he's not worth 30 million. And I tell you what he's worth, what somebody will pay. That's your value. Yeah. That's the bottom line of it. It's what somebody will pay is your value. And what he's doing is because he's playing a good side just now, a team that's dominating games and creating chances, he's showing up well in that team, and he's become a major figure in that side. And that's why you're looking at him, you're thinking, this is a player who is a threat. So that's why a lot of these other big teams will be also looking at him and thinking, well, if we're creating chances, he is somebody that can put the ball in the net, because prospect is a word, because he will improve still. He's learning the game, but what he's got is ability, and he's got strength and pace. And when you've got these kind of things, and a confidence obviously as well, but he can finish with both feet and his head.
And he's got great advisors as well, Peter. I mean, he's got smart advisors. People talk about agents and criticise agents and tar them all with the same brush, but his agents have sat down with him at one point and said, do you want to go to Tottenham? And say, right, well, yeah, I think we'll go to Tottenham. Well, here's what's going to happen when you go to Tottenham. You're going to be behind Harry Kane because they only play one centre forward, so you're never going to get a starting game. When he gets injured, you're going to be up against X, Y and Z. Why don't you go to Celtic for reasons that you'll be playing in Champions League, you'll be visible, you'll be in the attacking team.
Yeah, okay.
Good decision.
We'll talk more about Moussa Dembele and others involved in the game tomorrow. Let's go to New St Mirren Park. It ended 0-0. I'm sure the St Mirren manager will explain to Des he wanted much more. Jack Ross with Des McKeown.
Yeah, joined by Jack Ross here at the 2021 Stadium. Peter, Jack, is it 1 point gained or 2 points dropped?
I think on reflection, because of how other results have went today, it's a point gained. Because it takes us closer to the team immediately above us. I think it was a competitive game. I think we had opportunities to win it, but the film had chances as well. So I think, as I mentioned on reflection, I think it's a point in the right direction again for us. We're on a decent run of form since the turn of the year as well. We look like a team that has belief and optimism that they're going to continue to pick up points.
There's still a quarter of the season to go, Jack. What number of points do you think you'll need to make sure that you stay within the Championship?
It genuinely isn't something I've looked at, Des. I absolutely haven't looked at what we need as a total. It's always been the focus has been on catching the team immediately above us, whoever that would be at the time. It's Ayr United at the moment, because that's got to be our first priority, our first target. If we do that, then we're giving ourselves an opportunity to remain in the league via the playoffs. We want to avoid both bottom positions, but if we can catch ninth, then great. It gives us that platform. So points total wise, I've no idea. We just want to keep clawing ourselves closer, and we're doing that. And we're now in a position, I think, 4 behind, 9 games to go. That was a lot worse not that long ago. So hopefully there's a shift, and we're building on that.
There certainly seems to be a solidity about the side now. I think Mackenzie and Davis today were tremendous. Eckersley looking fitter and fitter every game. That must give you real heart to make sure that you finish the season strongly.
Yeah, because the last 2 games have been unusual in that we haven't scored. I think prior to that we'd only failed to score in one of the previous 16 or something. We'd been in good form in front of goal and scoring a lot of goals freely. We're still making chances. It was evident again today, and we've got quality players who will go back to scoring goals. So that platform to win in terms of clean sheets is vital, and we do look a lot more settled than we have done for long periods this season. That was always a concern for us, that we concede goals too easily. So that was vital today, because when you don't take the opportunities, you need the clean sheet to take something from the game. And so I was pleased as a back four and home, and pleased for Billy O'Brien as well, because he made an individual mistake during the week, but he responded to it very well today.
And you're back on the tools again. You've got Dundee United here on Wednesday. No rest for the wicked.
Yeah, it's been a really tough schedule through March. The players have handled it well today. We've had to make a couple of changes in games. Necessity more than anything else, just players having little aches and pains that could develop into something more serious. So we have a duty to manage them as well and try and put a team on the park that's in the best condition. Good game to have on Wednesday though, against a good team. And the game will be open again like today, which suits us. I think that's when we're at our best, and hopefully we'll come out on the right side of it and be another step closer to where we want to be.
We wish you all the best, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, Jack Ross there talking to Des McKeown, and again I think, Ruffy, when you look at St Mirren's predicament, we've always looked at the 2 home games coming up against Ayr United and Dumbarton.
Yeah, just looking at with Gordon there, it's the 1st of April, St Mirren versus Ayr United, and it's massive, absolutely massive. I think the manager and the players will know how important that particular game is. Because we're just looking at the fixtures there. St Mirren won't be waiting to leave it too late, because they've got Hibs the last game of the season. Yeah. So better to get the points now than later. And Ayr United's a good start, and Dumbarton obviously.
It's a good point you make. We're just looking at, Peter, at the fixtures, and you're right. They've got Dundee United, then it's Queen of South, but then they've got Ayr and Dumbarton, right, both at home. But the funny thing about it is the last 5 games in the league, for some reason, 4 of them are away from home. So it's a tough finish. They've actually got Morton, Falkirk, Dundee United and Hibs away. That's 4 of the last 5 games, and the only one they've got at home of those 5 games is Wraith Rovers. So
that's tough.
That's an interesting. Why have they got so many away games to finish on, rather than being like even 3 at home or 2 away? But it's 4 away.
Well,
probably the postponements with cups.
He's started a conspiracy theory. Yeah. I mean, that's the last thing we want on this programme, isn't it?
It's probably because they've been involved in the cups and the games that have been postponed. Actually, the easiest game out of that might be Easter Road, the last game. They might go Easter Road.
If they've got the
That's the League One.
League One, yeah.
And they might go just needing a point to stay up. And that might turn out Breeze's game. The problem with St Mirren, though, is we keep saying, you know, they're doing this and they're doing this in cups and that. If you look at the league form, it's not showing it. You know, they're just not showing the league. That's failing to score against Wraith Rovers and getting beaten, failing to score at home at 2 again.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm going to give you some quotes that are coming out from, it must be the website, from the early interview with Pedro Caixinha, the new head coach at Rangers. We'll discuss that in a minute, but we're back to Paisley because Alan Johnston, the Dunfermline boss, is with Des McKeown.
Yeah, delighted to be joined by Alan Johnston here in Paisley. Alan, what were your thoughts on the game?
I thought it was a really entertaining game for both sets of fans. I thought both teams went for the win, which is what, as a fan, you want to come and see. But overall, I thought we probably shaded the chances. We had probably the more clear-cut chances, and we've just got to be a bit more clinical.
Certainly in the counter-attack you've got pace with McMullen one side and obviously Michael Moffat coming from slightly deeper, helping Nicky Clark out on various occasions. I thought that you looked frustrated with some of the choices the players took.
Just the final pass sometimes that let us down. We get in really, really good areas, and you've got to make it count, you've got to be clinical. But as a team, I thought we passed the ball well at times. I thought we defended really well, especially with the height they've got at set pieces. We handled that without any problems, and we probably should have won the game. It looks a penalty as well, first half, but we had enough chances to win the game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Paul McMullen had been fed with John Hearn, and it looked as if there was contact, certainly from our position. Did you get any explanation from the referee? Did you ask him for anything?
No, I've not asked him. I was want to see it again in the video. I've not had the chance to see it yet, but it certainly looked like a challenge from behind. It doesn't look as though he's got the ball. Paul's in front of him, he's only 2 yards for goal, so it looks a penalty for where we are.
Still a quarter of the season to go, Alan. Have you still got sights in trying to get into that top 4 position?
I think the main thing for us is try to catch Queen of the South first and foremost. It's going to be difficult to keep, obviously, catch teams like Falkirk and Morton and Dundee United and Hibs. But we've just got to take one game at a time, keep progressing up the league and try and finish as high up the league as what we can.
We wish you all the best, Alan. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, I think a fairly honest assessment there from Alan Johnston. I think he'd probably be thinking what might have been, Gordon, when you consider the points difference. I don't think they're going to catch Morton in that 4th position.
No, the biggest thing about it is, and we spoke about this before the game, when I looked at their last, and that's now 18 games, the last 18 games, they've only had 1 defeat in that, so that's a good record they've got going, but they've had 10 draws, another draw today, 10 draws in 18 games. It shows you more or less where the kind of results that Dunfermline are getting. They're not winning enough games in order to go and catch people above them. They're drawing, and they're hard to beat.
Hugh, give us your thoughts on the words coming out from Pedro Caixinha, the new Rangers head coach. He said he's going to provide a winning and entertaining Rangers team.
Yeah, well, I'd be surprised if he said anything else. If he said, I'm going to produce a team that loses every week, it's very dull. Yeah, I mean, it's all words at the moment, and good on him. He's got to come in and be positive and adventurous in his words. The proof of the pudding is there'll always be, as we're talking about Ian Catherality, will be results. It'll be how Rangers fare between now and the end of the season, whether they get that 2nd or 3rd spot. I think they'll end up 3rd in the league, and I think they'll qualify for Europe. You'll have a transfer window, and then we can judge him on his signings at the beginning of the next season.
Yeah, and the managing director, Stuart Robertson, Gordon, has come out and said, we're delighted to welcome Pedro to Rangers. We compiled a short list of high quality candidates for the position, but we knew after our initial meeting with Pedro that he was the right man to take this club forward.
Well, that's what I've said before. They take full responsibility for it. They've seen it, and they've seen something in him. We're not quite sure ourselves what the criteria was, what skills he had to have in order to get the job. But he's obviously talked his way into it, and he's proved to them, and they're making a big decision here and bringing him in. And see if it works, they deserve a lot of credit for it. But if it doesn't work, they'll be highly criticised.
And that last point I'm going to make to you, Ruffy, Stuart Robertson goes on to say, I'd like to thank Graham Murty for taking control of the first team. He will complete his duties at Celtic Park on Sunday before returning to the under-20s. Pedro will begin his work on Monday morning.
Yeah, I think Gordon's hit it on right on the nose there. You know, if it works, it's fantastic. If it doesn't work, it's going to set Rangers back another 3 years. You know, because we don't know the calibre of player he's going to bring in, because we don't know the finances he's going to be dealing with. If it's a scenario they've given him the job because he's went in and said, look, I don't need a lot of money, I've got contacts, I can, no, as you do, this could turn into another Ronnie Delia situation where you have a young coach who somebody's identified that is one for the future, and it never worked. I'm not saying it won't work, but if it falls into the same category of him dealing in the same sort of money side of it as Ronnie Delia was bringing in young players for the future, and you don't get the results, then I think it's a massive disaster.
They have to talk positively about him coming in, don't they? You have to say, you can't say, as you were saying earlier on, you know, you can't go, we think he's going to do okay, but we're not sure about it. You have to say, he's the person, he's the one we identified, and he's the one that we think can turn this around. That's the way you've got to approach.
And then you look at it as well. I mean, to use two personalities, this could be a Ronnie Deila. Of course it could, but it could be, as we mentioned earlier with Hull, it could be a Marco Silva. It could be somebody comes in, you say, oh my goodness, he's really
turned this around
quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we heard from Moussa Dembele earlier on there, and let's hear from the Rangers camp, because Jason Holt was put up to the press to give his thoughts on the game. Of course, a lot will be made of the players' performances, and Pedro Caixinha will get his first look at them, and Jason Holt's been talking about the fact he's well aware of the build-up and Celtic being the favourites, but it's time for the Rangers players to step up.
It's just important that we go to Celtic Park confident, and like you said, try and get that win. Like I said, they've done extremely well so far in the season, but we know what's required. We know that the pressure's from the fans, and we want to do it and put it right for them.
Do they need to start, Gordon Smith, with that high intensity that they were able to produce at Ibrox? I mean, the first 25 minutes, it's that first tackle, it's that header, it's that determination.
Absolutely, you need to have that. You need to. In any Old Firm game that I ever played in, that was one thing you found about it. The pace of the game was at another level from other games you're playing in, and you have to start at that level. But the thing is, you have to keep it going as well for 90 minutes, Peter. It's not. You can't even drop off, because everybody's fired up, the opposition are, and at times, whether you're the favourites or not, I had occasions where I went into the game favourites to win and didn't, into the games like not expected to win and did, because it's one of these games you never know with the intensity of it. There was not as big a gulf between the teams as there appears to be at the moment. That's the toughest thing. So if you're a Rangers player, one thing you have to do tomorrow is match Celtic in terms of effort. If you don't do that and put in 100% effort, then you're going to suffer for it. So they need intensity right away.
Yeah, and when the players go into the away dressing room, there'll probably be a few newspapers up there. Andy Walker has suffered the wrath of Graham Murty, and of course some Rangers fans have not been too happy with Ali McCoist either, and what he's had to say. We're going to hear from Ali McCoist and Andy Walker very shortly, but I'm going to go back to the 2021 stadium in Paisley. Des McKeown has a player there talking to him.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be joined by St Mirren goalkeeper Billy O'Brien, and Jack Ross, very fulsome in his praise of Billy in his interview earlier on. Billy, how are you enjoying life at St Mirren, first of all?
I'm loving it, I'm loving it. It's lived up to what I thought it would be. I've come up here to play real competitive games, and I'm obviously in the situation that we're in. Every single game's a cup final, so I'm really enjoying it, and obviously hopefully we'll get out of the situation that we're in.
How are you finding the standard?
Very good, yeah, very good. I didn't come here thinking it'd be poor, do you know what I mean? It's a very competitive league, there's a lot of good sides. There's a lot of big teams in our league as well that shouldn't be where they are really, and no, it's good, it's tough, it's real men's football, you're playing for points, you're playing for big things, you know what I mean? And obviously in the position that we're in, every single game's a massive game, so it doesn't matter who we play, every game's bigger than each other.
And how are you finding Jack Ross as a manager, his approach to things? How are you finding Jack's approach?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, yeah. To me personally, and I think to all the lads, his man management skills is brilliant. He keeps everyone calm. Obviously we're in a real pressure situation at the moment, and he keeps everyone calm and happy, and training's always buzzing. again, like if you have downs, which everyone does in football, he picks you up, you know, and we go again.
And you go again very quickly. You've got Dundee United here on Wednesday. Big game again. What can the St Mirren fans look to for that game?
Massive, you know what I mean? They can just look for a team that's going to go out there fighting at their all. It's the same with it. Like I just said before, every single game's bigger as each other now. It doesn't matter who we play. Rafe last week was just as big as Dundee next week. It's literally that in that situation. So no, we'll go there. We'll give it our all. Obviously, it's at home, but hopefully we'll get a good support on Wednesday night. And like I say, we'll just be fighting our hearts out and hopefully get the 3 points.
Wish you all the best, Billy. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Okay, good to hear there. Des McKeown out there with the St Mirren goalkeeper. Let's switch our attentions to the aforementioned Andy Walker and, of course, Ali McCoist. We've just confirmed Pedro Caixinha saying he's going to try and put an entertaining and winning side out there in his time as Rangers manager. Ali McCoist, the former Rangers manager, says he thinks it's a good idea that Caixinha starts after Sunday's game.
My opinion would be, I think it would probably be slightly unfair throwing the new manager, particularly one that perhaps doesn't know the club as well as others, or indeed the Scottish League as well as others, into the cauldron of Celtic Park on Sunday. You know, if they're going to appoint him before it, just my own opinion, I'd probably let the manager, whoever it may be, watch it from the stand, and let him, you know, get a grasp on his team and have a look, and probably let Graham take that particular game.
Well, I think Graham Murty will come up with some sort of game plan for the weekend to make Rangers much more difficult to beat. I think Celtic are just so dynamic from middle to front, even when Rangers have got a lot of men forward. I think it's dangerous for them because Celtic can be devastating on the break with their pace. So, you'd struggle to make a case for Rangers.
Listen, in a one-off game, you always have a chance. Of that, there's no doubt. Celtic will clearly start the game favourites because they've got better players at this moment in time. Hopefully that will change in the near, if not immediate future. But, you know, as I say, over the marathon distance of the league campaign, Celtic are miles ahead, but you've always got a chance in a one-off game.
I think the rivalry with Rangers is a bit redundant at the moment. Celtic are miles ahead, and it used to be the case that you could compare Celtic and Rangers and make a team, you know, the best team out of the two sides, but I don't think anyone in the Rangers side could get close to getting a game for Celtic.
Well, there's the interesting part of it, because that's sometimes a gauge, I think, rather unfairly when you consider this season and Rangers' first return to the Premiership, Ruffy. But how many Rangers players would get into the Celtic side?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a debate, isn't it? And it's everybody's opinion. But for me, I don't care how big the gap is over a season. On the day, you know, as was evident at Ibrox in the last game, Rangers were as good as Celtic for a large part of that first half. And they could have went 2-0 up, and then you would have been looking for a reaction for Celtic. But obviously Dembele got the goal just at the right time, just before half-time. And yes, in the second half, there was a gap because the two best players in the park turned up, Sinclair and Dembele, but Rangers still had chances. I mean, Kenny Miller had a couple of chances, you know, to take something out of the game. But it's different now. Celtic are at home. Celtic will get their fans behind them. They're going to have the momentum. They're going to have everything in their favour. And it just depends on how the game goes. You know, I would have to say, if Celtic were to score early, I think they would win quite easily. But if they don't, then you have to see a situation of, you know, can the Celtic players handle some kind of wee bit of pressure that they've never had for the whole of the season in a massive big game to their biggest rivals? Yeah, well, we've been counting down to the game tomorrow at 12 noon at Celtic Park. This week we've had two guests who've sampled the delights of an Old Firm game, much like Gordon Smith, our panellist here today. Barry Ferguson and Bobby Petta were our guests. They reflected on the games they've been involved in and offered us their own insight into how this one's going to pan out.
The biggest memory I've got was my first goal against Celtic. It was at Ibrox 5-1. I scored the first goal. And I had all my family there, so that meant a lot.
my first Old Firm game, 6-2 one. That was a fantastic one. Obviously, the result was good. It was a beautiful day and my first one. And what can you do? 6-2, play a good game, great atmosphere.
It is an Old Firm game. I've played enough to realise that the form does go out the window. It's who wants it the most. At the end of the day, it's who wins the first tackle, who wins the first header, who creates the first chance. That means a lot in these sort of games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the game on Sunday.
Celtic's got the upper hand. I mean, they've been really on form, and even they have been struggling in games. They seem to find some magic, individual brilliance from some players, or good team interplay, which creates a goal. They've got just too much, in my opinion, for the Rangers.
For me, the best player for Rangers this season has been Kenny Miller. At 37, it's probably the fittest I've ever seen Kenny. It looks to me he's looking after himself. And also Lee Wallace, he's a big player. He's now been at Rangers a number of years and he knows what it's all about. So they two are probably the key players for Rangers.
Armstrong has been phenomenal, really. He seems to really come to life with Brendan Rodgers, Dembele, Sinclair. I mean, Sinclair is the player who can actually crave for it. It's just a winger that goes and attacks people. He's always on the shoulder, always wants to take people on. Tierney's been fantastic as well, you know, I mean, good interlink play, good understanding. Dembele scored. He will be at the end of a lot of things, you know, I mean, and you need to have a good goal scorer.
My heart says Rangers. My head says it will be a close one. It will not be what people think. I think if Rangers go and make sure that they keep it tight, they're organised, I think it could maybe be a draw. Celtic could maybe win by 1.
I think it's going to be 4-1. 4-1 to Celtic. Dembele score, Sinclair at the end of it, maybe Armstrong. And I think Kenny Miller might knock in one as a consolation.
Everybody's got an opinion on this one. We are looking right now at 3 guys who are about to offer us their assessment and the scoreline. Before Des leaves Paisley, Des, you watched the game without any goals today. Give us your thoughts on how you think the Glasgow derby will end between Celtic and Rangers tomorrow.
I have to say, Peter, I think I've been listening to the show all afternoon, obviously from Paisley, and I don't see it being 10-0. I don't even see it being 8-1, as Micah predicted. I think that it will be a victory for Celtic. I can't see beyond Brendan Rodgers' side. I think they've just got goals in every department, and I think they've got the momentum. I think they've got the focus, and I think in a manager, in the manager, they have someone who will not let the players rest in their laurels. So from that perspective, I can only see one victory, and that's a Celtic win. I think it will finish 3 or 4-1 to Celtic.
Okay, thanks to Des for his contribution this afternoon. Just a pity he couldn't actually witness a goal there, but St Mirren and Jack Ross still in the mix at the bottom end to try and get to at least the playoff place. These guys here are primed and ready. Before you give us your scoreline, what do you think, Gordon Smith, the message will be from Graham Murty tomorrow?
I think the message will be, you have to compete to a great degree. You're going to have to fight as hard as you can, because Celtic have got quality, real quality, and if you're slacking off and you're not concentrating enough, they'll punish you. And I think that's what you've got to do. He has to have them organised. I still believe that if it was me, I would play with a back three. I'd go a 3-5, basically a 3-4-2, 3-4-3 system. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. But because I don't think that you can get away with just playing the 4 at the back. I think you need 5 at the back.
Okay, so What about the scoreline? Well, Ruffy's been struggling with his voice all afternoon. Will his voice go before the end of the programme and before we get his prediction? You can find out after this break. Will Ruffy go for Celtic or Rangers? Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. If you've been with us for the entire afternoon, thank you very much for your company. There's been late drama across a number of games in the Premiership. Let's first of all go to Scotland's top flight and bring you the full-time scores from the Scottish Premiership. Aberdeen 1, Motherwell 0. Hearts 4, Hamilton Accies 0. Partick Thistle 1, Inverness Cally Thistle 1. Ross County 1, Kilmarnock 2, St Johnstone 2, Dundee 0. In the Championship, Ayr United 1, Falkirk 4, Dumbarton 4, Wraith Rovers 0, St Mirren 0, Dunfermline 0, and we are half an hour into the game. Morton against Queen of the South, still 0-0 at the moment there. Into League One, Albion Rovers 3, Airdrieonians 4, Alloa 2, Stenhousemuir 1, Livingston 0, East Fife 1, Peterhead 0, Brecon City 1, Stranraer 1, Queen's Park 1. League 2, Annan Athletic 1, Elgin City 0, Arbroath 1, Clyde 0, Berwick Rangers 1, Cowdenbeath 3, Forfar 1, Edinburgh City 2, Montrose 1, Stirling Albion 3. In the Premier League in England, Bournemouth 3, West Ham 2, Everton 3, West Brom 0, Hull City 2, Swansea 1. And in the FA Cup 6th round, Middlesbrough 0, Manchester City 2, and Arsenal against Lincoln City kicked off at 5:30, and the latest score there is 0-0. And I can tell you Morton have just gone a goal up in that match, so leading by a goal to 0, and I think if Morton get the win today, they will be well and truly thinking of playoff. It's just about what position they finish and how many games they're going to play, Gordon Smith.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in the playoff, Morton. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think the 4 that are there now are the 4 that are going to finish. I don't see them being caught.
Yep, okay. Well, the story of the Premiership today, I think Ian Cathro deserves a bit of praise, Rothy, for Hearts winning by 4-0.
Yeah, and in the light of us all saying, is this a must-win game, and the record that he has is in there. Every game that he gets, will be a bonus for him, and he'll look to catch Rangers.
Oh, it's been corrected. The Morton goal's been corrected.
Yeah, I really. There are some reporters who obviously quickly put it out there, and then once it's chalked off, they have to withdraw it. So we'll keep you up to date with that game before we go off here. But nevertheless, I think Gordon's confirmed they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. I don't think they're going out, regardless of what happens today. As far as
I've scored,
it's still 0-0. As far as the other scores from the Premiership, Aberdeen, you thought it was going to be a late winner. It proved to be the case.
Yeah, I had that feel about it, didn't it? I had the feel of a caretaker manager going up there and saying to himself, being pretty pragmatic. Last time we were up here, we lost 7. Let's go up, put 10 men behind the ball, hope we can get something at one point on the break, and we'll settle for nothing each. And then what you're hoping for is Aberdeen's, if you're an Aberdeen fan, what you're hoping for is their quality to overcome that. And they've got quality. I mean, Niall McGinn, people look at him. He's an ex-Celtic player, which is always a higher level. But in the summer, he was playing in the European Championship, so he's got in it. It's no surprise that he was the player that scored. I think that's another smashing result for Derek McInnes, actually, because it keeps, after the wee doubt about the Hamilton result, it keeps the momentum back on again. He'll say to himself he can sit and watch Rangers tomorrow, knowing that he's got his 3 points in the bag.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how many games Chris Boyd's got left in him, but to be perfectly honest with you, on 3 occasions when he's been playing in a Kilmarnock jersey, he's played with distinction. Some people would question his second period at Rangers, but nevertheless, he got a late winner today and a vital 3 points for Kelly.
I think you're right, Peter, but I remember the style of play Rangers were playing at the time when Chris Boyd came back, and it didn't suit him at all. They were playing long balls up to him and all that, and that's not his game. But there was one season, I think, the season before Kilmarnock, they stayed up. I remember we analysed it once, and it was his goals were the difference between Kilmarnock being relegated, because his goals were either getting them equalisers or winning goals, and the points that came from his goals were crucial. And that's what he's done a great job, and he's been a top goal scorer and deserves all the credit. And that was a good win for Kilmarnock today. I mean, the 4 games you're talking about, Aberdeen got a late goal, but Hearts got one, but theirs was immaterial. But Inverness scored a late equaliser and Kilmarnock scored a late winner. So the only game didn't have late goals was in the Premier League was St Johnstone game. They were winning pretty early on, so they were crucial goals late in the games in these other 4 games.
Yeah, agony for Thistle though, Robbie.
Yeah, again, it's one of these positions, that if you're a footballer and a manager, you'll be sitting in the touchline, 1-0, cruising, creating chances, nothing really happening, and all of a sudden you get hit with it, and then you've got to deal with it. You've got to deal with it in the dressing room. The players have got to deal with it. The supporters have got to deal with it, because that was that goal in the last minute could have, if it stayed 1-0, could have pushed Partick Thistle into places they've never been in the league for a long, long time.
Okay, let's look at the Premiership table ahead of Celtic against Rangers. Celtic with that massive points advantage and a chance to extend it even further over the 33 they have over Rangers, who are in third position. Maybe even Hearts after that win today will think they can catch Rangers in third position, but the new head coach Pedro Caixinha will start work on Monday at Ibrox. He may well have something to say about that. I think we will undoubtedly see a different Rangers emerge over the next few weeks as he starts to make the changes. But as far as the game's concerned tomorrow, we've been talking about Graham Murty, how they'll line up, what they've got to do. He will go back to the under-20s. He will take charge tomorrow. And he's up against a man who's been getting rave reviews for the way he's transformed the team. Do you think Celtic, as red-hot favourites, will go into this with even a modicum of complacency?
I don't think so. And the reason I think that is because of games that they've played already this season where they could have been maybe take the foot off the pedal. They've been 1 or 2-0 up in cold northerly outposts when you could just shut up shop at 1 or 2-0, maybe get a bit complacent and a bit sloppy. What they've done is actually gone on and increased their lead. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think one of the reasons for it is the level of competition in the team. I think everybody's playing every minute. I think players that could not be dropped, probably Scott Brown, has got a bit in the bank to suggest he could have a couple of bad games and not been got. Beyond that, well, Scott Brown and Scott Sinclair. Beyond that, nobody. Even Dembele can be dropped for Griffiths. I mean, Forrest for Roberts, Bitong for McGregor or Henderson, Armstrong for the same, Lustig for Gamboa, Simonovic can come in for both centre defenders. Tierney, Izagüiri's sitting there wanting a game. Yeah. So what you've got is you've got a whole perfect storm for him. He's energising the team. So see if you don't do it, I've got somebody sitting next to me that will.
Yeah, and Gordon Smith, over the last 5 games, the evidence stacking up for Celtic scoring goals tomorrow is they've scored 18 with only 1 conceded in 5 games.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, they are a real threat. That's why I was saying earlier on that Rangers need to be aware of that. They're going to have to be concentrating, and that's been a big problem with Rangers. I've seen games where people scoring goals because defenders aren't in the right position or they're letting their opponent drift off them. I've seen it so often, and that is something that he has to concentrate. And I'll go back to it again. That's why if it was me, I would be putting an extra defender in there, just putting somebody in there so to fill the spaces that if somebody drifts off, somebody will still pick them up. I think it's going to be a tough game for Rangers. I mean, Barry Ferguson was making some good points, but he said, an old firm game, he says, form goes out the window. This is different because a lot of the games that goes out the window, if the two teams are very close to each other, there's a big gulf between the two teams at the moment. Celtic are well ahead of Rangers, so it's not a case that you can say, form goes out, it's a one-off game. Rangers still need to perform well, but Celtic, on paper and in what we've seen already, are a better team.
Ruffy, I think Gordon makes a very good point there, and I think that's what's kind of swaying so many people towards an emphatic Celtic win. I can remember in the 90s when Aberdeen were challenging Rangers for the title, not Celtic, when Celtic come up against a Rangers side rippling with quality and on the bench even more quality. You were clutching at straws thinking Celtic would get results. Rangers just continued with great players to run right over the top of them.
Yeah, and if you look not through the history, but you look at big games, big players win big games, and I think Celtic have got bigger players than Rangers, but again, I think the worrying thing for Rangers are, even when they lose a goal, Celtic, the manager doesn't panic, the players don't panic, they just keep to what they're doing, and the only way the Rangers are going to get anything out of the game is if they defend well, and it's been proved this year. In big games, they don't defend when the pressure's on.
Yeah, and just on that point, I think that's the point you're making, as Brendan Rodgers has mentioned time and time again, Celtic players find a way to win. So, if they're going to find a way to win, are they going to win tomorrow, Hugh McDonald, and what, in your mind, is going to be the score?
Yeah, they're strong favourites to win. I would expect them to win. I think they'll win 2-0. I don't see the runaway thing. I think Rangers will play it very, very tight, and I'll go straight for a 2-0.
Gordon Smith.
Yeah, I think it'll be 2-1 for Celtic or 3-1, depending on whether Rangers play that team. If they were to go for another line-up in a very defensive-based team, still with some forwards to go and maybe change the game. I think the Rangers could get a draw at base, but I think if they play the team that we're forecasting they play, I think it'll be 2 or 3-1 to Celtic.
Ruffy?
Yeah, I think Rangers will do well early on, but I think eventually Celtic will wear them down and it'll be 2-0.
Okay, you can continue to give us your thoughts on it. It's been a great afternoon of football. Goals eventually coming in all 4 divisions in Scotland. There's just one match that everybody's talking about, and on Monday Mark Guidi will join us and we'll reflect on what we hope will be an entertaining Old Firm game at Celtic Park. Everybody will be watching their telly, listening to the tranny, going to the game. It'll be a divided city. At 12 noon it'll be up to the players to do the talking on the pitch. We'll discuss that on Monday. Join us if you can at 7 o'clock. But for now, thanks to Hugh McDonald, thanks to Gordon Smith and Alan Ruff, and well done to Des and Kevin Harper as well. From myself, Peter Martin, good night.